If you would like to speak during this council meeting, please fill out either a yellow card for public communication or a blue card for our public hearing items.
Actually, why
If
don't
you're
you
not
repeat that
sure
again?
which one is which, you can come up and ask our city clerk. So if you would like to speak, public hearing items is a blue slip and public comment is a yellow slip. Those are in the back of the room. Rebecca, wave your hand. There you go. Rebecca and the chief can help you with that. You'll fill it out and you will turn it in right here at the front to Cindy, who's got her hand raised. Thank you.
One more quick announcement. If you have an open seat next to you, can you just raise your hand if you have open seats next to you? So there's people in the back. If you'd like to come and take a seat, there's some seats here and there's some seats back here. Just for the ones that are standing in the back or just coming into the chambers. Thank you.
Are we ready? Okay. Okay, well, good evening. Welcome to today's regular meeting of the City Council on this day, Wednesday, August 19th, 2026. Let us proceed with our land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge that the land we inhabit today was once known as Tavangar, the home of the Gabrielino Tongva people. We show our respect to the Gabrielino Tongva people, as well as all indigenous people, past, present, and future, and honor their labor as original caretakers of this land. We commit to uplifting the Gabrielino Tongva people and invite you to acknowledge the history and join us in caring for this land. Thank you. Let's proceed to flag salute. Members and public, please rise.
Outward, face, present, colors.
Members, please put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice.
Order, colors. Outward, face. Forward, march. Colors. How about face? Dismiss.
And thank you to our police explorers. Members, please be seated. Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Yang.
Present.
Councilmember Go.
Present.
Councilmember Wong.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez.
Present.
Mayor Lo.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Clerk. Okay. Pursuant to SB 707 and Resolution Number 2026-R23, rules for conducting legislative meeting, remote participation via Zoom is available. Public comments for all agenda items will be accepted during the public comment period. Item number 7, except for public hearing, which will be taken at the time each hearing is called. Please complete one yellow speaker card only if you wish to make a comment on the non-public speaking items, and a separate blue public hearing speaking card for each public hearing item. The time allotted for each speaker will be determined based on the total number of requests to speak, including those submitted by in-person attendees, Zoom participants using the raise hand feature, and callers participating by phone by pressing *9 to join the speaker queue. Requests to speak will be accepted until the beginning of the applicable public comment period to determine the speaker time limit. And for those limits, 5 or fewer speakers, 5 minutes each. 6 to 20 speakers, 3 minutes each. 21 to 40 speakers, 2 minutes each. 41 or more speakers, 1 minute each. Live interpretation is available through the Wordly app, and closed captioning is available on Zoom. As a reminder, any person addressing the council who disrupts, disturbs, impedes, or otherwise renders infeasible the meeting's orderly conduct, who, after a request by the presiding officer, refuses to cease such behavior, may be removed from the City Council chambers or remote participation platform. For more information, procedures, and instructions, visit the city's website agenda page. Telecommunication announcements, are there any? Okay. Agenda revisions and additions.
No changes, Mayor.
Thank you so much. Okay.
I'm sorry. There was a typographical error on the staff report.
Okay.
There were 2 10Es. One
Oh.
of them, the first one is supposed to be 10C, not 10E.
Clarify. Okay. Thanks for clarifying. Okay. On to, I think many are here today, presentations. Okay. Well, we are so excited, so thrilled to be here tonight to welcome, to congratulate some superstars, some finalists, some role models in our community, and we just want to say congratulations. So, we have 2 sets of presentations tonight. And again, these are to recognize our incredible champion all-stars, all of you. Yay again. And before we make the presentation, I'm going to call the first set and ask the coach to come up to say a few words. So we are thrilled for our first presentation, make them to the Monterey Park Sports Club Heat 14U softball district champions, finalists, and national champions. Okay, so who's gonna come up? All right. All righty. Right up front. Okay. Yeah, sure, why not?
Is this on? Yeah.
Yes, it is.
I didn't write a speech, but they just sent me one right now. It's been a long journey. For these girls. Couldn't be so proud for these coaches and those parents back there. Amazing. Thank you, Monterey Park, for having us here tonight, honoring the 14U girls, all-stars. Like you said, Mr. Mayor, districts, states, and nationals, which we all work hard for. And even that young man sitting in the corner over there, John, we all do this because this is what we want to do, and this is what we volunteer for. Coach June, Coach Q, John, for letting us all be here, our family back here. Yeah. So we want to present to you.
Oh.
Yes.
Wow.
We have a plaque for all three,
Oh,
and then we have our USA, and then
Oh my
we
goodness.
have they're all on here.
oh my goodness.
Can we hand it to you?
Sure. Yeah, actually, well, actually, how about this? We'll come down now, or maybe after. Yeah, let's. Yeah, we'll do all at
Okay.
once. Yeah.
This couldn't have happened with having John having us come in his league. So we have a lot of things to hand John. So John, you got to get up. Bring him. Where's he at? So, yeah. Those are all the banners that
Wow.
from Fountain Valley, where it all started, to districts, to states, to nationals, and those are going to be hung up in at La Loma Park. There we go.
Oh, Loma Park. Okay, wonderful.
So thank you, John. Thank you, young ladies, and Mr. Mayor. We have this is for.
Thank you. When we come down with our presentation, we'll
Okay.
accept all at once. But again, congratulations, members. Any comments you'd like to make? Congratulations.
Congratulations. What a huge honor. We're so proud to have you all in our community and keep up the great work.
I love those championship rings, all three of them. So thank you for representing our community, our city.
Just echo kudos and congratulations to the team. Really appreciate your representing Monterey Park in such a spectacular fashion. And yeah, I'm noticing all three rings are ginormous, and they look amazing. So looking forward to another successful season to come, and whatever. Love that the city and the community is supporting this, and so many championship winning teams for youth and for adults as well in our city, and really appreciate being able to celebrate together. So thank you.
I'm also very ecstatic. I think the first thing I noticed when I came in was all of your Monterey Park gear. And I just want to say how thankful we are that wherever you were sporting and representing Monterey Park in such an amazing fashion. It makes us as council members, but as a community, so proud that you carry our name. So thank you so much for not just a successful season, but also for representing your community and representing Monterey Park in such an amazing way. Thank you so much. And I think if we can find a way to be able to display some of these items in our lobby for
Yes.
the community when they come through, be able to share in that glory, but also in that pride. So thank you so much. And if you notice, we have a lot of pride here, but a lot of faith in you as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, well said, colleagues. And with that, it is my pleasure to present these certificates on behalf of the city to outstanding players and coaching staff. Members, please accompany me. Okay.
Yeah, you did shrink. I got taller. I got tall. I did get taller. Aubrey? Kylie? Clarissa? Caitlin? Olivia right here. Paula is right next to her. We'll take Justice.
Yeah, we're in high school.
Eileen? Right here. Ah, thank you. Emma, okay.
Thank you.
Alex? 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 Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you guys. Yes, thank you.
You want?
All right, let's smile.
All right. Everybody, 1, 2, 3. Let me go a little bit wider. Oh my goodness. Okay, 1, 2, 3. All right, perfect.
I don't want this to come out, so I'm gonna take it a little bit of an angle. Ready, girls? Got 'em.
You guys ready for this? You guys ready for this?
Coach, so a few more words, come on.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out to celebrate these young men here with their accomplishments and our ladies here. I would like to elaborate a little bit more on the sacrifices that these young ladies have had. They gave away their summer from end of school till basically about maybe a month ago. Every weekend, 100 degrees, playing all day long, 5, 6 games, and they really, really work their tails off. For those of you who don't know, our program is very tiny, and we now can hang 6 banners up that we are district champs and state champs. Okay? We are, compared to some of these other programs, we're D3, they're D1. You have programs with 300 girls, and we come in with 60. And these girls work their rear ends off, and they deserve everything that they've gotten, all the accomplishments and all of the accolades. Okay, I'm very proud of all you girls. And parents, thank you for sacrificing your summers. I know what that's like. It's not easy. Okay, thank you very much for your dedication. Coaches, thank you very much. Okay, enjoy what's left.
Yay, very good. And next, we have the Monterey Park Pony Baseball Shetland All-Star Pony World Series participants. And if we could have the team and the coach, please come up and say a few words.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Daniel Mercado. I am the head coach of the Shetland All-Star team here. I wasn't prepared to speak, but gonna say a couple things. First off, thank you guys for having us here today and presenting these young athletes with certificates. We really appreciate it. First off, a big congratulations to all these players. They pretty much gave up their summer. They were on the diamond every single day, putting in work, dedicating themselves to get themselves better, right, for this tournament. And in doing so, they accomplished a very big thing, which making it to the Pony World Series. It's the first team ever from MPK to make it to the World Series, and I think it's the first time they even passed regionals. So good job, guys and girls. Good job, good job.
Yeah!
Secondly, thank you to the coaches. They were sane enough to join me on this journey, right? To take the extra step to get these kids ready, to be patient with these little ones, to get them ready for battle every single day. They did a great job in helping me get these kids ready. So thank you guys. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. And last but not least, you know, our great parents. Very supportive group. Anytime coaches and I made a change that could have affected their kid, it was a very supportive, right? A team first approach from the parents, and you could see that trickle down to the kids, right? They were there fueling our kids, giving them water. What do we call them? Charge gels to get them ready for the game in the mornings, and bringing shade. So everything that the parents did, you know, thank you guys so much. It was a team effort. We couldn't do it without you guys. So thank you guys very much. Appreciate it. Yeah. And that's, yeah. Good. And I think that's all for me.
And thank you for those heartfelt words. It's just, we're so proud of you. We're just so proud of you as a community, as a city, and I'd like now to ask my colleagues to share a few words.
Well, huge congratulations. I remember being at the pony opening ceremony at the beginning of summer and then the closing ceremony at the end of summer. So I know how much effort and time and dedication y'all put in. Congratulations on getting to the World Series.
Congratulations. Congratulations. I think Coach Daniel said you guys work all summer, but I'm sure a lot of that was also play, right? But you earn it, you're champions, and thank you for all your hard work, and this is gonna help you guys grow and get better in life. Thank you, coaches, and thank you, parents.
I'll quickly add my congratulations as well, and thank you to the parents and the families that really invested in your kids and in this team. Appreciate this, and again, really appreciate being able to celebrate as a whole community for this amazing occasion, and to be able to celebrate this kind of work, and look forward to next year as well and repeat champions.
I'll echo the sentiments and just how proud we are. I really admire, and I was just telling our city manager and our mayor, I really love your hats and your jerseys. Thank you so much again for sporting our name and for all that you do for our community. I just so amazed by all the accomplishments here tonight. And I know a lot of you guys are going to school tomorrow, so make sure you take your certificates and share with your teachers. Getting certificates and honors at such a young age, making us really proud. Thank you. And thank you to the parents. I know how I have 3 daughters myself, so I know a lot of the sacrifice that it takes to accomplish and do what you're doing. Thank you to the coaches for your dedication and time. Appreciate it. I know it takes a village, so thank you.
Thank you so much, colleagues. And now, the fun part, we get to make presentations. Members, you'll come with me to make presentations to the players and the coaching staff.
Pacheco. Joel's here. Here, Joel. This is Joel. Alex is at the end. Who is it? Clement, where are you at? Clement, here. Cool. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Congratulations. What school do you go to? Also. All right, and Milo.
Milo is right.
What school do you go to? Oh, really? And look, he's got the. I know.
Yeah. Go up there and take a picture, girl. Yes. 6, 7.
Could you put it down? Don't cover your face. Don't cover your face. Miguel, open yours. Can you open Miguel's? Could you open yours?
Thank you so much. I'm serious.
Hi, guys.
You get your rookie card.
They actually do have cars now.
Wow.
You should buy your card. Okay, awesome.
The link for tonight's video will be on the city's webpage, and I want to share that with you.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank you for coming out.
So if you want to fill in seats, you can move around, whatever you want to do. Very informal.
Get closer.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Okay. Okay, members, let's now proceed with the agenda. So we will now proceed with public comment. Again, this is the final opportunity to request to speak on agenda items other than public hearing items. If you have not yet submitted a yellow speaker card and wish to comment, please raise your hand, complete a speaker card, and provide it to the city clerk. For those participating remotely, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom. If you are participating by phone, press *9 to join the speaker queue. We'll hear comments from in-persons first, followed by remote participants. City clerk, how many in-person speakers and how many remote speakers we have, and what is the speaker time limit?
Thank you, Mayor. There are 14 in-person speakers and 0 on Zoom for a total of 14 speakers. That will provide 3 minutes for each speaker.
Okay, 3 minutes per each speaker. Okay, very good. 3 minutes for each speaker. Okay, well then I will proceed and call up the in-person speakers who submit a yellow card. Again, 3 minutes. First up, Raymond Yu. Please.
Okay, 3 minutes. Good evening, everybody. I'm Raymond Yu. I have emailed you to the Monterey Park City Hall that I am requesting and demanding to add and install groundbreaking ceremony to install a brand new Panera Bread is coming to the Monterey Park Marketplace, which will be located at 4400 Marketplace Drive. It's between the Buffalo Wild Wings and the Honor Hawaiian Grill, Chick-fil-A, and In-N-Out Burger. Those opened 8 years ago inside the Monterey Park Marketplace, Costco, and Home Depot shopping center. We're missing one building, which is Panera Bread. We would like to order Panera Bread corporate headquarters come to Monterey Park Marketplace to celebrate groundbreaking ceremony before constructing a brand new Panera Bread, which will take place at Monterey Park Marketplace between, I told you that before, Buffalo Wild Wings and Honor Hawaiian Grill, and Panera Bread will have a drive-thru in the marketplace inside the Costco shopping center. In Panera Bread, we have a monthly or yearly unlimited subscription, which is $15 a month, and then $120 annually. You can sign up at PaneraBread.com. This is why Monterey Park residents inside the city needs to have a brand new Panera Bread with a drive-thru, built and installed grand opening ceremony celebration taking place in the future only at Monterey Park Marketplace. Since Monterey Park residents were driving too far away to go to Alhambra Panera Bread in 2018, that opened a go next to Alhambra Costco, and the other, on the other hand, is Panera Bread in Pico River, opened in 2016. This is why I email you the letter regarding that we need Panera Bread with a drive-thru should be built inside the Monterey Park Marketplace, while people are convenience want to use Panera Bread while reading or studying, and Panera Bread will have a Wi-Fi in the marketplace because Panera Bread is the best company we ever have. They sell bread and they sell food and they sell breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Everything's in the Panera Bread, which is a missing store out of total to be almost filled up at the Monterey Park Marketplace. Everything filled up except Panera Bread. This is why you need to report to the Panera Bread corporate office at Fenton, Missouri, that we want to have we need a new Panera Bread with a drive-thru installed, built at the Monterey Park Marketplace, where people need to enjoy consuming there in the future. Please.
Thank you very much.
And also,
Thank you.
Planet Fitness, Monterey Park,
thank you.
East LA College.
Thank you. Next, Joe Barton.
Testing. Okay, great. Honorable Mayor, members of City Council, thank you so much for taking the time to hear me today. My name is Joe Martin. I lead our West Coast Partnerships team at Via Transportation. Via Transportation is the company that has operated MPK Transit Express since 2025, and this past spring began operating the city's dial ride service. I am here today to request that the city consider that council consider pulling item 10B from the consent agenda for discussion, with a recommendation to recommend that staff issue a best and final offer process for that procurement. VIA has been really proud of the work and the partnership we've had with the city over the past year and a half. We have grown MPK Transit Express to serve over 25,000 riders, have taken it to operate as the most efficient mode of transit in the city, with a cost per ride at about half that of the Spirit Bus. And since taking over operations for the dial-a-ride service just about 3 months ago, we've already doubled or taken ridership about 20% higher. With that in mind, we were extremely excited to have the opportunity to bid on the transit RFP that was released last spring, thinking that we could bring more of these benefits to the entire city. As you all probably saw in the staff packet, VIA was not selected as the RFP respondent due to our cost. Our price was higher materially than the other selected applicant, Transdev. And I think after we reviewed the city council packet, we came to realize there was quite a discrepancy between the two proposals in terms of the services offered and the information provided to all respondents. I provided a letter to council detailing some of these. I'll go very quickly in the interest of time. One of these relates to vehicles. We interpreted the city's recommendation, the council's guidance to begin in-fleeting electronic vehicles by 2029 as a requirement. That was approved by council in March of this year. So we recommended an entirely EV fleet, which is much more expensive than a CNG fleet that the selected responder went with. We also did not receive information on the roster and wages for current employees for the transit services, which is required by California regulations. With that in mind, we are totally fine. We might not be the provider that the city chooses to move forward with, but we recommend releasing a best and final offer process so that the city can really compare like-to-like proposals and decide what is best for residents in the city, rather than comparing apples to oranges, which is what we think is happening today. We don't mean to be difficult. We just think we can do a lot of benefit to continue innovating and driving improvement for transit in the city. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next, Susan T.
What's up? I don't need the whole 3 minutes. I just want all of you to know I'm for the flock cameras, but I do believe we should go back to the table and listen to everybody else and try to meet in the middle. That's all I gotta say.
Next, Robert Ogawa Monroe.
Greetings, Honorable Mayor Lowe, members of City Council and staff. I'm Robert Ogawa Monroe, speaking tonight on behalf of SGV Power Up Beacon, also known as SGV Pub. I'm here tonight because of the efforts of two outstanding members of our city whose activism, planning, and actions will positively impact generations of children, families, swimmers, and seniors through their advocacy for the Barnes Park Aquatic Center. Cindy Yee was among the first to alert our community to the fate of the Barnes Park pool in April of 2025. And she's continued this effort ever since. Cindy often speaks thousands of words with her photography. Margaret Young is the next on my list of recognition. Margaret contacted me while researching and writing the SGV Pub's user requirements specifications. My ears perked up. She's one of my people. In engineering, this document is critical when It formally defines what the users and customers need as a system to accomplish, without prematurely dictating how engineers will implement it. With her background planning and managing multi-million-dollar projects, Margaret has poured her heart and soul into this document. There's been frustration dealing with the city staff. And sadly, I report tonight that Margaret Leong has chosen to step back from leadership of SGV Pub. My role is transitioned from vice president to president. We are well positioned to continue. Above all else, Margaret has accomplished with SGV Pub is the URS document, and it will serve as her enduring legacy for this project for decades to come. But has the city been listening? Tonight, we have item 9B on the agenda. Yet, we've received no meaningful recognition from the city that it understands the significance of the URS from an engineering perspective. We see the contractor's glossy proposals in the agenda full packet, but where is the transparency that instills community confidence in what would be the most complex and most expensive project the city has ever undertaken? Your constituents have formed 2 nonprofit corporations advocating for Barnes Park Pool. You need to help us with outreach, and you need us to help out with outreach and fundraising. We've heard tremendous support from the council members, and we thank you. But we need significant greater confidence in the city staff who will execute what is likely the largest project of their careers.
Thank you. Next, Dave Jones.
Three minutes. I hardly know what to do with all the time. Honorable Mayor Lowe, Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez, council members, dedicated staff, thank you for hosting the community meeting on ALPRs last week. I noticed at that meeting, the people who spoke in favor of flock cameras highlighted their experience with crime. I too have been a victim of crime. Our house on Taylor has been burglarized twice. When I was growing up, my parents' house was burglarized and my music equipment stolen. I've also been assaulted with a knife held to my throat. I was sexually assaulted. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Please don't ask. So why am I against flock? Because I will not be made a victim twice. I will not give up my civil rights. I will not let the criminals win. Simply put, I will not live in fear. Criminals want us to live in fear. Fear makes us compliant. When we live in fear, we are already a victim. I refuse to live life that way. I refuse to be treated as a victim, just as I refuse to be treated as a criminal every time I get in my car and drive through the city. What I don't understand is why everyone doesn't feel this way. The Constitution and the Bill of Rights define the United States and what it is to be an American. If we don't have freedom of speech, if we don't have freedom from illegal searches and seizures, all of our other freedoms are as fragile and fanciful as fairy wings. Council members, Chief Weiss, officer members of the POA, you all took an oath to support and defend the Constitution, even before you swore to protect the safety of everyone in this room. There's a reason for that. Without the Constitution, without the Bill of Rights, there is no real safety. We have plenty of people living in Monterey Park who lived under authoritarian regimes and dictatorships like China, Cambodia, Myanmar, North Korea, Thailand, and Vietnam, where these rights are not protected. Are those countries now to be our models? Is that what we really want? Not me. I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States with all my heart, all my soul, all my strength, and all my mind.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, Edlin Takahashi.
I'll just do the best I can. Hello, my name is Edlin Takahashi, and I'm here representing SGV Pub. And let's see, first of all, I'm also a past president of Mark Keppel Aquatics Booster Clubs. Again, I want to thank you for your support and for all the work you've done in getting this pool project moved forward. So thank you very much. Thank you and congratulations on receiving the $500,000 grant and hearing my concerns about our dedicated city account. I'm very pleased one has been set up, and now we can go ahead and see how much money we've raised, and we can go ahead and keep track of those milestones for our community and get them all excited about any fundraising opportunities that we have. Since we're now at the design stage, I do have a concern because none of the aquatics coaches were consulted by Darling when they were putting together the initial design. And they kind of used what they had done for other schools and other parks as kind of their template. And they didn't take into consideration that we have unique needs as we are a competitive aquatics community. We have 91 All-Month League championships from Mark Keppel, as well as 9 CAIF titles and 4 runner-up titles. And we have a coach, a diving coach who is an Olympic medalist, and he right now is in Croatia coaching the junior divers at representing both the United States and China as we speak. So one of the things with the last design was that it was 6 inches too short for competitive diving. And that's a concern because all we need is someone to get hurt and we would have a terrible lawsuit. So I just want to make sure that as we move forward that the city considers all of these things and that both coaches are consulted on what we need to be doing to make this successful. So I will respectfully request that we go ahead and the city and the new company consult these coaches, and I will be forwarding their contact information to you. And I do want to speak about the cameras and how helpful that I believe they are, because several years ago there was a hit-and-run accident in front of the Murray Calendars by Atlantic, and it was cameras that helped catch that white van and the driver of that car, of that Keppel student who was so tragically killed that night. And as tonight, as many of us probably got that Amber Alert, this time there was no plate number with the Amber Alert, but many times there are with the Amber Alerts and the Silver Alerts. And as a driver, my eyes are on the road. I am not looking at other license plates as people are driving by, unless I'm stopped at a traffic light. And so those cameras help us find those people that we are looking for. And I hate to see them taken down. Our property crimes are down 11% overall, robberies down 31%, burglaries down 29%, auto down 8%, and
Thank
theft
you very
down
much.
5%. So thank you to our police department, and thank you, city council members.
Thank you. Next, Gregory Verber. And forgive me if I mispronounced your last name. Verber, okay, thank you. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, and Mr. Berger. Marie from the Personnel Board. My name is Greg Verbeck. I'm retired Monterey Park Police Sergeant. I'm here tonight to encourage you to support Monterey Park's flock camera program. During my career, of 31 years, 4 months, 2 weeks, 1 day, 2.5 hours with the city of Monterey Park, I learned that solving a crime often comes down to getting a good first investigative lead. Flock can provide that lead. When a burglary, robbery, or auto theft or other serious crime occurs, investigators may have very little information to work with. A witness may remember a vehicle, but not a person. A license plate may be captured by another camera. Flock can help investigators determine whether a vehicle connected to a crime was in a particular location at a particular time. It's not a replacement for good police work, good judgment, or traditional investigative techniques. It's just another tool that can make things more effective. I also recognize there are legitimate concerns about privacy, data sharing, and the potential misuse of technology. I don't believe these concerns should be dismissed. I believe they should be addressed through strong policies, transparency, auditing, appropriate limits on access and data sharing, and consequences when the system is misused. In fact, I believe we can support Flock while demanding those protections. I would also respectfully ask the council to look at the decision based on the evidence and long-term interests of Monterey Park, not on political pressure or what may be the easiest during an election or re-election cycle. As elected officials, you sometimes have to make difficult decisions. I would encourage each of you to put political considerations aside and ask a simple question. Does this technology, when properly regulated and responsibly used, provide a meaningful public safety benefit to the people of Monterey Park? As a retired police officer, I believe the answer is yes. You don't have to believe that Flock is perfect to believe that it is useful, and you don't have to ignore legitimate privacy concerns to support its continued use. I hope you will make this decision based on facts, the public safety needs of our community, and the responsibility you have to protect both the safety and the rights of the people you serve. I respectfully urge you to support the Flock program with strong safeguards, transparency, and accountability. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Troy Grant.
Good evening, members of the council, mayor, mayor pro tem, city attorney, city manager, and members of the public. My name is Troy Grant. I'm a police corporal for this police department. I come here tonight to represent the Monterey Park Police Officer Association as their president in my 4th term. So I was going to come to you in January, introduce myself and talk about myself and the good people that come out here and protect the city daily and night. The men and women that put on a gun and badge come out here every day. I was supposed to come in January, but of course, this year has been a busy year for people. And the First Amendment. The First Amendment in which I support and respect everyone's opinion. So it's time that I come up and talk about my opinion based on my training and experience here in the city of Monterey Park as being a police officer and a police corporal and a part-time supervisor. The men and women that come here every day to protect you, they're talented, they're educated, they're motivated, they're dedicated, they're hardworking. They come out here every day and risk their lives. So all of you have a home, a safe place to work, a safe place to shop, a safe place to eat, and to have that American dream, or that dream of whatever you want to call your American dream. This issue with the automated license plate readers, again, is a topic of the day, obviously, and there's pros and cons to it. And I'm going to tell you first off how important it is. How obviously I support it. I've used it many times. We had a homicide in the city back in 2009 where a husband murdered his wife. I was on that call. I knew the woman, and I had arrested her husband a year earlier. Long story short, he killed his wife and he took off in his vehicle. It took the Monterey Park Police Department about 3 to 4 weeks to find him. We didn't have the flock system. We didn't have the automated license plate readers. We do now. We could find him now, if it happened today, probably within 4 minutes, 4 hours, or 4 days, not 4 weeks. So if this thing is ever taken from us, then that's the service we're going to have. Clear back to 2009 technology, and I don't think we want that. We need to keep Monterey Park safe. The men and women that wear the badge and gun, and wear the uniform can do that if we have the tools to do that. And I'm going to say, for 25 years that I work for the city, the man that gives us these tools, besides the support from this council, is Scott Weiss. I've had 5 chiefs. He's the best one. Okay, we thank God you have him, that we have him. And his command staff, Bob Hung and Gus Jimenez. And again, we support him. The POA does support our current
Thank you very
leadership
much.
here, and we can't do it without them. And I appreciate all the support and dialogue I have with you. That's the 3 minutes I got. Thank you for your
Thank you very
time.
much.
Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Next, Rob Del Torrio.
Mayor, City Council, how you guys doing? I want you to make a note of 2 things right now before I speak. I'm not wearing a mask, and I didn't come in on a bus. I'm a long-term resident. My house in Monterey Park was built in 1954. My family moved in the day after it passed final inspection. I've lived in the city 72 years. Of those 72 years, I spent 30 exciting years working with the Monterey Park Police Department. I spent 6 of those years working on a city commission. And I spent 3 long, arduous, sometimes miserable years helping run the city swim team. See, back then we had 150 kids. It was a big team. And probably 50 plus sets of parents that all thought their kid was the fastest and deserved preference. So that was a try. But right now I'm here to talk about my time on the police department. Way back when, we had a real burglary problem in this city. And I'm talking in the late 1970s, early 1980s. We were having upwards of 150 houses a month broken into. I would start my shift as a report car and write burglary reports for the entire shift. And this means going into people's homes who had just come home from a happy night, maybe at the movies or out to dinner. They come home and find the front door open, the back sliding glass door smashed. The house looked like a tornado went through it. Every drawer dumped on the floor, the refrigerator and freezer standing open, carpet torn up, pictures and portraits ripped off the walls. The bathroom and toilet partially taken apart and starting to flood the house. Oftentimes, houses that had a nice big fish aquarium would either find the fish missing, or worse, the fish tank would be filled with milk. Some of these bad guys are real mean. At each one of the reports that I take, after I finish my investigation, I had to tell the people there's not a whole lot chance of getting your stuff back. We just didn't have a real high recovery rate. I wish I could have told those people there's a camera, a flock camera on your street, and we have a good chance of catching who did this. I hope that none of you ever have your place broken into, but if you do, I hope there's a flock camera close by. Thank you.
Next, Brian Stuthers, please.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and city personnel. I appreciate the time. I'm here today just to kind of, I heard some stories, and I feel bad for the people who don't believe in the system, and I want to listen and agree with them. But I've been a police officer now for almost 30 years, and I did work before we had the flock system, and I've worked now with the flock system. For those of you that don't know, I just came out of the traffic bureau, but I was the traffic investigator, and I did all the hit and runs. So if your car was hit at the Costco or something like that, and somebody took off and didn't leave a note, well, unfortunately, it's hard to find those people. And the cameras that are there, it's not like CSI, where we can zoom in real tight to and get an actual plate, and wazoo, we got everything. But what I can do is, first off, for those that don't know, they talk about the flock, but they don't know what's all involved in it. When I look into flock, I have to put a case number, the reasons why I'm using the flock, and then put hit and run, everything. I have to detail while I'm using that flock system. And if I don't have a plate, I could put, if it was a white Toyota Corolla, I could put that information in there, bumper sticker, things of that nature, and it will pop up any cars in the neighborhood with our cameras in the system, and we're able to possibly get a hit on that car. Well, I have closed numerous cases due to the flock system that I would have never found those cars if it wasn't for the flock system and being able to use those different characteristics to find those vehicles. So it is a good tool. It's not abused like a lot of people think that we just use it to use it. We don't use it to locate people. We use it to locate suspects. And that's the big difference. I'm not interested to see where your car is going all the time unless you're a criminal. Then I want to know what's going on and if I can locate your vehicle. So it's a great tool for the police department. And if for some crazy reason somebody's using it that shouldn't be using it the correct way, you're going to get disciplined and probably fired for using it illegally. So that's all I got to say about the flock. It's very important and it helps us solve a lot of crimes. I'm on the hit and run side of it where it's a lot of it's misdemeanors and felonies. But at the end of the day, we're able to usually find or locate the vehicle that's involved with it, and we can then continue our investigation. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate everybody. And the flock system is actually a very good tool that we use in our police department. Thank you.
Next, Officer Becerra.
Good evening, members of the council, mayor. Thank you for having me. You've obviously heard my counterpart, Brian Stothers. He gave you the investigative side of how flock is used. I can give you the patrol side, as I am currently a police officer for the city of Monterey Park. I've been so for 2.5 years and currently am on patrol. As police officers, we are not allowed to perjure ourselves, so I'm up here telling everyone the truth, okay? This ongoing notion that flock is used to enforce immigration or to violate civil rights is wrong. It's false, okay? I personally, along with a few of my partners behind me, have taken some pretty dangerous people off the streets, thankfully, because of the use of flock, okay? Other than that, I can't really say anything more other than that it's a useful tool that I use on a daily basis. I come with the mentality to take dangerous people off the streets, along with my partners behind me. And I think that's what the citizens of Monterey Park deserve, for officers to come to work every day being prepared to take bad people off the streets. The flock system, for the patrol standpoint, it notifies me of the presence of either a stolen vehicle or a vehicle that is wanted for a serious felony. That's from the patrol standpoint. That is the only information that we get from flock. If your vehicle is stolen and a suspect is driving that vehicle, or if you are a suspect and you are wanted for a serious felony, those are the notifications that we are going to get. And that is it. Other than that, I really don't have anything else other to say than I hope that our citizens are behind us, our council is behind us, for us to continue to use this technology. It's vital for me. It's vital for my partners. So thank you for your time.
Next, Sarah Mina. S-A-R-A, last name M-E-N-A.
Good evening, City Council and Mayor. I grew up in the city of Monterey Park. My parents have been here since the late 1950s. And it's always been safe, the city, since growing up here. I also had a family member here that used to work here at Monterey Park Police Department. And also I have other family members in other departments in law enforcement as well. And this city has always been safe, and I love my city. And that's why I won't move. And so I believe that the flock is something great for our citizens and for the city of Monterey Park. And that's all I can say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Lewin Ku, L-W-I-N, last name K-Y-U, I believe.
Thank you, Mayor Henry Lowe. Good to see you again. And Mayor Pro Tem, Councilman Thomas Long, and Councilmember Vingo, and Councilwoman Elizabeth Yang. Thank you for having me here. And because today I come with a heavy heart, and I want to talk about the subject of illegal boarding house. And this is just not Monterey Park, but this is going to be a multi-city between Rosemead and Alhambra. I will be reaching out to Alhambra Mayor, who is a friend, and we've also done a documentary interview with him, Mayor Goji Maloney. And so I believe Monterey Park has a strict unpermitted and in regards to overcrowding housing, and there's fines up to $1,000 per day, as well as 6 months in jail. And we need your help to track down not every illegal boarding house, but one in particular, because I call her the illegal boarding house queen, because she has one boarding house on 319 West Emerson Avenue, Monterey Park, another one in Alhambra, 777 Valley Boulevard, another one in Rosemead, 8315 Kine Street in Rosemead. And she has done more than this. She's done identity theft. I have actually a resident of Monterey Park. He wants me to, maybe if I can speak to you guys personally a little bit more. He didn't want, but he will release his name. And this illegal boarding house queen has stolen his identity, used it to purchase a van this year. And this has gone pretty crazy. She's doing a lot of illegal acts. And if I may ask the City Council to be able to help stop the crimes that she's committing. And that's the reason why I'm here.
Mayor, maybe we can have PD just follow up with her on the side.
If Chief can just kind of speak with her in the side, get the information needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Go. Thank you, Councilman Fong.
Okay, next, Mistress Flock.
All right. So first, I want to comment about the last week, that kind of a community event. That event is generally pretty good, but I do have several concerns. Number one, I believe that we have like 100, 200 residents attending that event. We dedicated our time to show up, but only like 10, 15 people are actually allowed a chance to ask Chief a question. The other 95% of the residents was not given a chance of asking a question. So I really wish the Chief, next time of doing it, such important, such great event, we should have like make sure we have enough time, not just wrap it up after 1 hour and everybody go home in such a rush. So that's number one. Number two is that I believe that the chief mentioned that the flock representative fly all over here from thousands of miles away. But in reality, the flock representative only said 2 words, customer data. They fly thousands miles right here, and I was really happy. I was assuming that I was able to ask him a question. He was able to can go like maybe he can host a meeting for 1 hour. The police department can host a meeting for 1 hour, and then Q&A for 1 hour, something like that. That's my general expectation. But everything squeezed inside into that 1 hour time window. I just feel I was left without much information. I was expecting I can go there and I got all of my questions answered and I go home with a clear mind. But in reality, I feel that 90% of my question was never addressed, was not answered. So I just wish that if this is a really successful event, that in the future, we should continue to host such community event that we can promote more transparency, promote more accountability, but just not in a such rushed way. We should not follow the mayor law, we're gonna cut our public comment from 5 minutes to 3 minutes, 3 minutes to 2 minutes, 2 minutes to 1 minute. I mean, that is not what he advertised. We value community voice, or we really love your feedback. That is exactly the opposite of so-called, we want your comments, we want to hear from you. That is exactly the opposite how he campaigned to run as a city mayor, city council member, or whatever. And then at the end, I really wish that the city should have a vote. How many members supporting the flock, how many members
Thank you very much.
against the flock.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes the comment. Okay, let's. Oh, no, we already started. I mean, I'm sorry. You were supposed to return in before we started the council meeting. I'm sorry about that. So. Okay. Next? Let's see. Okay, let's proceed then. All right. Let's see. Okay. Staff communications. None. Okay. Old business. 9A, January 21st, 2023, Memorial Project Update.
Mr. Mayor, before we move on to the next item, I just wanted to thank all the people that came out tonight. I also want to express appreciation for some of our retired police officers that came out tonight to share their stories. Thank you so much for the PD who came out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. All right. And when staff is ready, 9A, January 21st, 2023 Memorial Project Update.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Diana Garcia, Assistant City Manager. Presenting with me tonight is Ziad Masboudi, our city engineer. We're here this evening to give you an update on the January 2023 memorial. We'll do a recap of the project background, the overview of the evolution and concept, a few of the key milestones since the January 21st, 2026 City Council meeting, and then we'll present some elements from the final design. So as you know, the site selected was the demonstration garden on Metro and Orange. Its outdoor gardens allow us to build on the existing site layout. It's got views, and there is a bus route there for nearby connectivity. Quick review of the project timeline. October 8th, the proposal was submitted. In December, we had presentations to the victims, families, and survivors. December 11th, we did a community meeting. January 21st was the last City Council presentation. And then this evening, we'll be presenting the final design. If you recall, this was the concept that was presented in December for the community meetings. We received some feedback on that. We received feedback that people preferred the interior garden space for the memorial. They wanted opportunities for dance and a dance floor added. They wanted an opportunity for social interaction and connection, private spaces for thought, memorial signage, night lighting for safety, and views for reflection. And so we've updated the concept to design the space for dancing. We switched the layout of the trees to have a path and a procession, and we emphasized the concepts of renewal and protection. You may recall this was presented back in January. This was the rough concept for the memorial. You have a memorial grove down at the bottom, and then the top that you see bigger in the inset there is the dance floor space. So this evening, we're going to be presenting some elements from the final construction documents, including the dance floor, the landscaping proposals, the moon gate, the seat walls, solar lighting, and monument signage. So I wanted to demonstrate or to show you some examples of the dance floor material that's going to be used. This is a glass aggregate material called lithocrete. It's going to be presented in blue and light blue hues. I've actually got a piece of it right here. If you'd like to pass it around, you can see it. And this one is really special because it is glow in the dark. We might not be able to see it in this council chambers, but it will charge during the day, and then when the evening comes and the sun goes down, you'll be able to see those glow in the dark pieces there. These are the proposed plants for the landscaping. The memorial grove will include this Natchez crepe myrtle here. There will also be trailing lantana, English lavender, lily turf, and deer grass used. So those are consistent with the city's tree master plan. Thank you. And they're native, they grow well in California in low water, drought tolerant. Thank you, Ziad. This is a couple examples of what the memorial panels will look like. There will be 2 memorial panels. I'll show you the text that was worked on for those. So this is going to be made out of steel with the wording and the names cut into it there. This will be the text for the entry monument. As I said, there will be 2 plaques. This will be as you're entering the memorial grove. So it will say, in remembrance of January 21st, 2023, these 11 trees honor the lives lost and the love that continues to grow through those they touched. Like nature through every season, may this path remind us that even through sorrow, healing and hope can take root and flourish. May all who walk here find peace, comfort, and the strength to move forward with love. I want to note that this and the next slide that you'll see, these words were chosen in collaboration with the families and the survivors. So we had drafted a couple different options for them. They gave us feedback and suggestions, and this is how we landed at the final text. So for the dance floor memorial, as you enter that, there will be an additional plaque. This will include the names of the folks who were killed in the shooting. We're working with each family to ensure that they want their loved one's name and that we have the correct spelling. And didn't mention, but this will be in English, Chinese, and Spanish, both plaques. So as you enter the dance floor, this plaque reads, "This space honors the lives lost, the memories they left behind, and all those whose hearts were forever changed. As we remember their laughter, kindness, and the love they brought into our lives, may this place offer comfort, reflection, and hope. This memorial stands as a reminder that grief does not have to be carried alone and that healing grows stronger when a community comes together, moving, healing, and dancing forward with love and remembrance." That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions or receive feedback. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. Members?
Thank you, staff, for that report. I think it's great that you guys hosted community sessions to gather feedback from our residents and community members, and those feedback we're taking into consideration to come up with the updated concept. I like how now there's a designated space for dancing and how the procession of trees has been modified to represent the 11 victims. So thank you for the changes.
I want to just say comfort, reflection, and hope. 3 very powerful words that kind of encapsulates what we're doing here for our community and for the families who had to go through this tragic. Thank you, staff, and the community members for working on this together. We look forward to getting this accomplished.
Echo the sentiments. Appreciate all the staff work that went into this and getting here, and really appreciate the community for engaging in this process and the design, getting us to this space, and particularly the families of the victims that have been invited, and many of which participated in the process up to now, and hope that they will continue to engage as we move ahead on this. My question is, what if you can just detail kind of what the next steps would be, assuming we receive and file this update today, and what that timeline might look like.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you for that question. I did forget to mention next steps. So this design is basically completed. We'll receive those design documents. The next steps would be to put this out for a request for proposal for construction. That typically is open for about 4 to 5 weeks in order to give firms the opportunity to present a proposal. We'll also have meetings available for firms that have questions about the construction. We'll do an opening of the bid documents, and then we will be back to council for an award of contract to build this. Once we've got that award of contract, that will probably take, I'm thinking, and Ziad's our engineer, so he can check me on this, probably a couple months to build.
I mean, just doing my mental math, I know January 2027 will probably be aggressive in terms of a timeline, but would be an amazing way to mark the anniversary. But knowing that, let's do this right, obviously not rush it either, but just putting it out there.
We're gonna do our very best, sir. There's some fabrication that may take a little bit of extra time. I mean, a lot of the work won't take as long, but we're gonna try our best to align it with the date.
Thank you.
Indeed, that would be our goal. We're already talking to our colleagues at the Resiliency Center about plans for when this is ready to be dedicated.
I'll echo the sentiments, and just wanted to thank staff for, I think all of us have seen this process kind of play out, and so I wanted to thank you for not just the time and effort that it took to do this, but for doing it in the right way in terms of taking a lot of, the input from the victims and the victims' families and survivors to make sure that this was done in a very proper way. And so I really appreciate all of the effort that went into putting this together. I can't wait, like Councilmember Wong has said, to see this come to fruition. So thank you again.
Thank you, colleagues, and I also want to express my appreciation for the thoroughness of this endeavor's project. Let us not forget that 3 years ago, members of our community lost their lives in a horrific mass shooting, and I think to this day it is still marked as the worst incident of urban violence, gun violence in Los Angeles County history. It's certainly it's not an easy task, but I think I want to appreciate the sensitivity and working with the survivors, their families, to get us to this point. And I think that many of us, want to see this memorial be finished so that the community can continue to have a place to reflect and to mourn. And with that, thank you so much.
Do we need a motion on this?
You can make a motion to receive and file. And I'd like to just add, this has been a team effort, so I'd like to thank everybody in Public Works, particularly Ziad, who's been working with me on this project, as well as our designers, Kimley Horn. They did a wonderful job leading outreach on something that was really sensitive. And of course, our partners at Chinatown Service Center, Resiliency Center, who have helped us in working with the families. They put a lot of work into this.
Thanks. No, I'll make the motion to adopt staff recommendation, receive and file.
And I'll second.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Wong, second by Councilmember Go. Hearing no further debate or discussion, members please vote.
Approved unanimously.
Thank you. Next item, 9B, award of professional service agreement to AGW Architecture for the preparation of plans, specification estimates for the Barnes Park Aquatic Center CIP number 95067. Staff proceed with presentation.
Right. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council. Sean Igo, Public Works Director. I also have with me Robert Aguirre, who's our Recreation Director. So we're going to get into the presentation. Tonight you have an item before you to award a professional service agreement to HGW Architecture for the preparation of plans, specification, and estimates, or PS&E, for the Barnes Park Aquatic Center. The existing Barnes Park pool has been closed for several years due to significant deficiencies that resulted in substantial water loss. Out of an abundance of caution, the pool was ultimately closed and filled in to address safety concerns. More recently, as part of the Park System Master Plan, the Barnes Park Aquatic Center was identified as a key community priority. This led to a series of community meetings beginning in late 2025, where residents and stakeholders provided input on conceptual designs for the future aquatic center. Based on the community input, option B was advanced. The proposed facility includes a 50-meter competition pool, a 25-yard, 6-lane recreation and lesson pool, an approximately 10,000 square foot aquatics building, an expanded pool deck, and shaded bleachers. On April 27th of this year, the city issued an RFP for full PS&E services based on the conceptual designs. The city received 7 proposals, and following initial evaluation, the top 4 firms were invited for interviews. Based on the evaluation of both the written proposals and interviews, HGW Architecture was determined to be the most qualified firm. Next slide, please. HGW distinguished itself in its extensive aquatic facility experience, integrated project team, approach to community engagement and risk management, and commitment to principal level involvement throughout the project. Next slide, please. The proposal also provides a comprehensive team covering architecture and engineering, site investigation, accessibility, cost control, public engagement, and aquatic operations. Next slide, please. Including contingency, the proposed contract amount is $1.74 million. Of this amount, $1 million was previously allocated by this City Council. $500,000 is funded through the LA County Measure A competitive grant, and the remaining amount will be funded through the general fund. The design phase is anticipated to take approximately 13 months. At the same time, staff is proceeding with a NEPA review associated with the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant. Advancing these efforts concurrently will help minimize the overall project schedule. With that, staff is able to answer any questions, and also representatives from HGW team are here to answer any technical questions that City Council may have.
Thank you for your presentation. Members?
Thank you for the presentation regarding the pool and all the bids. I'm glad to hear that we're making more progress. It's been a while since the pool has been on our agenda, so appreciate the updates and appreciate all the Save the Barnes Park Pool supporters for coming here today.
Well, thank you for the update. I think just wanted to thank both of you and actually many others in the city on the staff side for just taking the initiative within the last probably 7-8 months, from getting the first $500,000 from the city to put into the account to now getting the grants to moving forward. We've secured about 1/3 of what we need. So we still have some work to do, probably a lot more work to do, but we're going to get there. And I have full confidence in you guys doing that, especially Robert, because I know you got a grant coming up. We're here to help. Whatever we can do. I know we've got a lot of the folks in the community here, swim moms, the pub, different groups. They're all here to help. We can get this done as a community. I have confidence, full confidence in our city. So thank you.
I'll echo that. I appreciate all the staff work and the community for engaging through this process, through the conceptual design, even going back to the Parks Master Plan process. All that work has gone into where we are now, and that's made us more competitive for the grants that we've won and will make us more competitive for the grants we are continuing to apply for. And this kind of engagement is really, and to somewhat what the speaker said earlier, we need this engagement. We need the community to really show up for this. And that way we can show to the people that we're applying for grants from that this community is fully engaged on this, and this is a priority for those here in Monterey Park and beyond. and that this pool will be not just a Monterey Park resource, but a regional resource. And so we're working on that. Appreciate those that showed up to our first subcommittee meeting for the pool a few weeks ago. We're planning for the next one. Hope and expects that Pub and others who are engaged and have been engaged on this process for years now will continue to engage with the city. We'd love to continue partnering with anyone and everyone who is interested in helping to support this project. And a lot of that will be, as some of the speakers noted, getting people and residents here in Monterey Park engaged on this process and helping to push this up on the priority list for the people that we're applying for money from, and making sure that we can get to the finish line. And the major hurdle here is going to be funding. Right, we're moving ahead on what we can in terms of the design here. I'm looking forward to voting yes on this specific item because this will get us further along. And once this design is ready, this project will be shovel ready. And that makes us even more competitive for all the grant funding and opportunities that are available out there. Right, people want to give money, they have money to give to something that they know will get built. And to be as close to being ready to build means having all of the plans and the actual drawings and engineering estimates and all that stuff being ready to go and being able to hand those to a construction firm the next day. And so this is what's going to get us there. And Sean, if you can remind us what the timeline is for the conceptual design. I think you said 13 months, if I heard that right. So that's still a long process, but that gives us some time to make sure that we can fill this remaining 2/3 of the funding gap. We've got, through the work of the staff, the grant applications that we've won, and frankly, this council's work in the budget that we've been able to balance the last few years and set aside funding for, we are 1/3 of the way there, where a year or two ago we were 0 of the way there. So we are making progress. There's still a long way to go, and we really need the community to continue to show up here and for this project if we want to see it happen. So really appreciate that, and appreciate all the work again that the community has been doing to uplift this as a priority for many others. And I think safe to say for many of you, as you have talked to your neighbors and friends about this project, not everyone thinks the pool is the number one priority or a top priority for the city to pay attention to. There are a lot of other issues going on. So your work, the work that you've been doing, and I hope you will continue to do, is very, very, very important. I want to emphasize too, because I think this was brought up during one of the comments earlier during public comment. Sean, if you can confirm that through the design, the full design process that's going to happen here over the next 13 months, there will be community meetings to refine the design and to make sure that if there are ideas or specific specifications that we want to make sure are integrated into the design for this pool and the complex, that those opportunities are there for the community to make sure that that input is provided to the design team.
Yes, that is correct. We will have community meetings and we will provide social media posts. We will reach out to the community as much as possible to let them know when these dates and times and locations will be.
Thanks, Sean. And look forward to those community meetings and invite everyone to join. I'd also note, I know many of those that have been advocating for the pool have been part of and involved in competitive swimming, but I want to emphasize too that this is really a community pool. Yes, we want a pool that is fit for competitive swimming for high school and beyond and lower too, but this pool is also meant for recreational swimmers, aerobics exercisers in the morning, afternoon, nighttime, even for movie night in the pool. This pool is meant for everyone in the community, and we want to make sure everyone that has an interest and wants to make use of this pool, and I expect this pool will be here for many, many decades once we build it. We want to make sure it provides that flexibility for the needs that we know we have and that potentially that we know might be coming in the future too, and that it provides for the desires and the needs of everyone in the community that wants to integrate into this and to utilize the pool. So appreciate that we are having this comprehensive process for community engagement and a lot of different people who want to use the pool in different ways and pool facilities in different ways, including the schools. And I know we're working on a partnership with Alhambra Unified, and we're hoping to finalize something or formalize something soon. But looking for additional opportunities, any other partners to continue to join us. This is going to be a long haul, the design process at least another year. But if there are ways, I know Sean will be very creative to shorten that timeline to be more competitive. But we're going to get there, and the finish line is really more and more in sight. We're getting there, and we're making progress. Really appreciate all the work that's gotten us to this point. I also want to note, appreciate right, this firm already, there's a sheet in this agenda packet, project considerations. They've already right, added some suggestions in terms of redesigning and retooling some of the conceptual designs that we had initially out of the community engagement process, already making some recommendations for how we can make this a more functional and efficient physical kind of layout and facility, including prioritizing shade structures. We know we're in the middle of another heat wave. We know how important shade is and a pool is for as a cooling tool and element for our community, particularly during the summer, but throughout the year as well. So appreciate that that's been prioritized in other design elements. And again, welcome everyone to provide additional feedback about what we want to see this, because once this pool is built, I think many of these, it'll be, let's make sure we put as much as we can into this, because it's hard to rebuild these things. I don't know that we will rebuild this thing in a matter of decades, right? Barnes Park Pool lasted us close to 80 years. Elder Pool's getting close to that at this point. And right, we want to make these investments, the major parts of these investments at the right time. With that, happy to pass it on, but looking forward to supporting that.
I also wanted to share sentiments in terms of how proud I am of where we are today. I think it's about a year ago that we were just beginning to make this or discuss this and make this a priority. And I think it's so exciting because I know that the SUV Pub is here and the Barnes Park Pool, but I think everyone in Monterey Park wants to save the pool. And so I have 3 daughters, and I know they're going to be swimming in that pool, and then I can already envision the pool being ready. So whatever we can do to expedite the process, I would love to see that. But I think it's a time to celebrate the milestones that we've already made. I know that we still have a lot of money to find and raise, so whatever we can do, and also finalize our, partnership with Alhambra Unified to make this happen, if you know what I mean. So, anyhow, looking forward to the next process, and I'm also very supportive of this and making sure that this moves forward tonight. Thank you to the staff and Robert for helping spearhead this. Appreciate that, and Sean too.
Thank you, colleagues, and I'll be brief. It's been a long journey, and we made tremendous progress. I think it's something that we should be proud of, because in my years on City Council, from 2020 to now, I mean, we have made tremendous progress, and that is probably thanks to the efforts of our city staff, working in collaboration with our community, working together, and I think that this is a good start, and I look forward, and we should congratulate ourselves and continue to push and make the efforts so that in the end, we realize our vision of having a refurbished new pool that our community can enjoy and respect.
With that, I'm happy to make the motion to adopt staff recommendation with the additional note. I appreciate, and Robert, appreciate that we're at least noting to set aside potential wall space for art and murals, and look forward to filling those as well.
I'll second.
Moved by Councilmember Wong, second by Councilmember Go. Hearing no further debate or discussion, members please vote.
Approved unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to consent agenda items. Any items, remember, that wish to be pulled?
Mayor, I'll pull item 10B for off consent. And then for the minutes for 10A, I just had I was late to the mayor's meetup or the mayor's state of the city. In the minutes, it notes that Mayor Go called the meeting order. I'm not sure if that was a typo or if he actually did call the meeting order, just pointing it out, if we need to make that edit.
Okay, we'll make a note of the edit to the minutes. And I'm sorry, you said you like to pull 10B?
Yeah.
Okay, pulling 10B.
And I'll recuse from 10C due to my property's proximity.
Okay. Councilmember Yang, choose 10C. Okay. These items.
Otherwise, I'll make the motion to adopt the remaining consent calendar items.
And I'll second the remaining items.
Moved by Councilor Wong, second by Councilor Go. Hearing no further debate or discussion, members please vote.
Approved unanimously.
Thank you very much. Okay, item 10B, award of contract to First Transit Inc. for fixed route microtransit and dollar ride transportation services.
Good evening, all Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Sean Igo again, Public Works Director. I also have Sochi Pan, our Public Works Manager, who will be leading the presentation, so I'll hand it over to her.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the City Council. Sochi Pan, Public Works Manager. The item before you is consideration of award of contract for the city's transportation services. To provide some background regarding this item, the city completed a transit study back in 2024 that evaluated our transportation service, Spirit Bus. That study resulted in recommendations for service improvements and the implementation of a pilot program in April of 2025. The pilot introduced a new on-demand service, MPK Transit Express, which was launched in April 2025, and route restructures for Spirit Bus, which were implemented in August 2025. In March of this year, city staff reported back to council on the results of the pilot program and highlighted success of the combined services offered to the community. At that time, additional service changes were recommended, including the use of on-demand services to augment the city's current dial-a-ride program, and also which was implemented in May, and also the elimination of the Link Shuttle effective July 2026. The results of the pilot program, in addition to community feedback received throughout the pilot, demonstrated that the hybrid model of fixed route and on-demand service was an effective service model for the community. These findings helped develop a request for proposal for fixed route, on-demand, and dial-a-ride services in the city. The request for proposals was released on May 7th, 2026 for all three services. Proposals were due on June 18th, 2026, and 4 proposals were received. All 4 proposers submitted proposals for the 3 services. However, 2 of the proposers were deemed non-responsive due to missing RFP requirements. The city, with assistance from its consultant, reviewed the technical and cost proposals of the responsive proposers. Based on both technical and cost review, First Transit received the highest score and is recommended for award of contract for all 3 services. First Transit is the city's current operator for Spirit Bus and also provides service to other cities in the region, including Alhambra, Arcadia, Pasadena, Baldwin Park, and has their local yard located in El Monte. The proposed contract would provide fixed route, on-demand, and dial-a-ride services under the same coverage of existing services. The recommendation for award of contract is for a 4-year agreement with First Transit in a not-to-exceed amount of $12,534,987. The estimated cost for the first year for all transportation services is about $3 million, and this includes special event charter services in addition to our fixed route, microtransit, and dial-a-ride. The city's transportation services are currently fully funded through Metro's Prop A and Prop C's local return funds. This concludes my presentation. City staff and our consultant Steve Wilkes from FlexLinks are available for any questions, and we also have representatives from First Transit with us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Members?
Thank you for the presentation. So I've read the city staff report and also the letter that VIA sent to us via written communication, as well as the city's response to VIA. So my question is, I know VIA is requesting a best and final offer process. What is the downside to providing that, if staff can respond?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'll take that one. The RFP does not actually allow for a best and final offer, so if that's something that the city council would want to explore, the recommendation would be to reject all proposals and resolicit for proposals through an RFP process.
Sean and Sochi, can you kind of give us just like big picture in terms of how the RFP went out, the timing it took for people to bid, and then how long it took for us to decide? Just a time capsule of what went on.
So, like I mentioned, we did a study back in 2024. We've been evaluating our services for quite some time, released the pilot program, and also evaluated the success of that pilot program to help develop a comprehensive program or RFP for city services. We've been working with our consultant since the start of the transportation study. They've been supporting the city along the way to help develop what meets the community's needs based on what the data is telling us, what ridership is telling us, and what the community feedback is telling us. We did conduct a couple of surveys throughout this process. When we came back in March of this year to council to report back on the evaluation of the pilot and further service recommendations, that's when we started finalizing our RFP development with our consultant. That RFP was released in May. The deadline was June 18th. We did extend it to be able to respond to several questions from potential proposers. And so after June 18th, when all 4 proposals were received, we went through a comprehensive evaluation, again, both on the technical and the cost proposals that we received. Our consultant also reviewed the technical proposals from those who were deemed non-responsive for comparative reasons. And so throughout this time, we've been working on evaluating the responses, making sure they met the RFP requirements. We did meet with First Transit for some clarifications once we had determined that they were the recommended contractor for this service. And so ultimately, that's been the timeline for this RFP process.
So I'm just going to, I read the report, I just want to kind of an update so that everyone can hear it. We fixed the route over time to determine how we wanted the route to be run, not only the Spirit Bus, but the transit as well as the dial ride, because it has to connect for everyone. We went out to bid on May 7th of this year. We gave all the bidders 6 weeks, six plus weeks for the bidder. And you said we extended that. How much time did we extend that?
I believe we extended by 2 weeks to allow enough time to respond to the questions that were presented to us and give the proposals enough time to review them and develop their proposals based on those clarifications.
Okay, so we gave 6 weeks and we extended 2 more weeks. And then of the 4 proposals that came in, I'm going to make the assumption that they came back for Q&A within the last 2 weeks and you guys responded to those Q&A. 2 of those bids fell out. They couldn't, they fell out for whatever reason. I think we call it non-responsive, but they fell out. So it was down to 2. And then ultimately, staff made a recommendation on one of them, and that's the request. Okay, just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thanks. Sean, for the one for our current fleet of Spirit buses and the microtransit and dial-a-ride, do we own all those vehicles, and which ones do we own of the fleet?
So we own portions of them. We own the Spirit Bus vehicles. We own those. The microtransit, we do not own those. And then the dial-a-ride, we own those.
Okay. And none of those are zero emission currently, right?
That's correct. There's no EVs.
And then what's our current contract for Spirit Bus with First Transit, and then contract for microtransit and dial-a-ride? When do those contracts end?
The end of this year, this calendar year.
Okay. So no, or in terms of a timing perspective, there's still some time if we want to potentially rethink this. And there's potential to extend this if we wanted, or extend the current contracts if we needed to.
Ultimately, it's council's prerogative to make those decisions. If we still want to move forward with a January launch, extending this duration could put potential bidders in a time crunch to purchase vehicles, to purchase equipment, drivers. Those things could squeeze that timeline, which might actually have companies fall out. So we just need to be mindful of the whole process and if we're going to extend contracts, things like that.
All right. And then any reason why, I know my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is right, the state's requirement for municipal fleets like our Spirit Bus and our fleets for vehicles, police cars, things like that. The requirement is for us to transition to zero emission by 2045. Are there interim steps there too that we have to meet?
So there's 2040 is the goal, and so yes, there are interim requirements that should be looked at. I think the biggest challenge for us, especially with these large vehicles, is the technology isn't quite ready. And again, we rely on the experts, so not only our consultant that's helped us with this process, but also the transport providers themselves. They're the ones that evaluate this and make the best decision on when we should be looking at EV when it comes to these large vehicles. Again, even on our side, when we look at our public works vehicles, we look at those same metrics to make a determination on what makes sense for us to do EV now versus later.
Yeah, I suspect that went into some of why the RFP didn't require zero emission for vehicles and even a phase-in for some of the vehicles for this. Just wondering if you can confirm that, or what was our thinking in terms of allowing for non-zero emission or CNG versus other types of technology?
Ultimately, it was up to the proposers to evaluate that and determine what made sense for them to not only meet current regulations but future regulations. Again, our current RFP was for 4 years, and that doesn't get obviously to 2040. So it's up to them to propose what makes sense for their operations and ultimately for us financially too. So it's a dual evaluation when they look at how they're going to propose and what makes sense for us and for them.
I'll say up front, when I read through this, my immediate question was, how can we transition more of our fleet to zero emission? Understanding technologies in the way, and even if we want to go zero emission, right, some of these vehicles in terms of, especially the Spirit Bus, larger size vehicles, the technology is a little more limited. Can you talk about if we would think through, or what we would think through in terms of not only fleet changeover to zero emission, if it's electric or whatever other technology? I assume there will be also other infrastructure concerns or considerations we'd have to take into account that would be probably part of the cost. Would that be on us or on the proposer? Just what's our thinking there, if any?
So ultimately, the way the RFP is written is those requirements fall on the bidder. So yes, they're responsible for making those purchases. That's all within their cost proposal. However, the city ultimately will pay that, right? We have to pay for those costs out of their proposal. So ultimately, the city will be on the hook for that. Again, the big thing that we're looking at is cost. And one thing that we need to keep in mind is we're using Prop A, Prop C funds. Those are not infinite funds. And so those funds can go away at any given point. They can be reduced at any given point. And so if we're to look at increasing, our aggressive approach to putting EV in, we could end up paying out of the general fund moving forward because we might run out of Prop A and Prop C funds. So again, all those factors we need to be considerate of when we're making these decisions.
Yeah, there's right. I understand that there are the technology in terms of especially the larger vehicles, like what we would expect for the Spirit Bus, much more limited, and from an infrastructure perspective would be much more demanding. But there are zero emission technologies available for the type of vehicles we use for Dial-A-Ride and for the Transit Express, for the microtransit system. I would be interested, actually. I don't know if this was a consideration. We dismissed it because we thought through some of these concerns, but barring significant concerns, I would be interested in seeing how we can start to phase in zero emission technologies, and particularly on the side, right, the microtransit side and the Dial-A-Ride side, and integrate those technologies. If that's a phase in through this 4-year or longer term contract to make sure we can amortize those costs in a more cost-effective way. And then when the technology maybe makes sense, I don't know if it's after this contract or also seeing how we might be able to phase that in here, although I know that's difficult to do up front in a contract. Also looking at when technologically feasible and economically feasible, see how we can phase in for the larger kind of Spirit Bus fleet that we will have to replace. I would be open to exploring that. I would actually like for us to explore that. Wondering if we thought through that at all, if the challenges were overwhelming, and if not, I would be open to exploring a process to phase in, right, the kind of vehicles that are available, technology available, scalable already, to integrate into the fleet as we make this transition in the next few years. And I would just reiterate, right, we have adopted a sustainability plan here in the city a few years ago now. I know we are working very, very diligently to adopt as many of those technologies as possible and to encourage residents to do so. I think this would be a great way, where it makes sense financially to and economically, to start to lead. I know we've been doing a lot of fleet transition. Appreciate Public Works, PD, Fire, and all those city staff that have been working to transition our other municipal fleet to zero emission vehicles where the technology exists and makes sense from a cost perspective. I would love to see us integrate that thinking and that implementation into our transit operations where it's feasible. From what I've seen, I don't think we did all of that thinking, and maybe we can do that, and I'd be okay exploring how we can do that here, but open to thoughts from staff if there are significant concerns around doing that here. I don't see any at this point. I would like to retool an RFP or start the RFP process over again, and maybe we phase in, or not even phase in, but see how we bifurcate, right, this transit proposal or this request for proposals to make sure that we have zero emission vehicles, or at least look at the cost for zero emission vehicles for the Dial-A-Ride and the microtransit system or part of this, and then see out what the cost difference is going to be between phasing that in and then phasing in the larger vehicles as well, and be able to decide, similar to how we did for the TRAS contract, right? We asked the proposers to give us different price points for different, right, two bin, 3 bin system and all that stuff. So we were able to have a more detailed kind of RFP process.
So one of the things to think about is if you look at the cost comparison that VIA provided versus TransDev. So the majority of VIA's proposal was EV. And so looking at that price difference, that gives you a pretty decent overview of what that cost difference may be, which I think is $1.7 million per year. Is that what the cost of? So about $1.7 million per year, in addition to this $3 million that we're looking at for TransDev. And so if that kind of puts things in perspective, the other thing is for Prop A, Prop C, we have about $200,000 left, and Martha can correct me if I'm wrong, but we have about $200,000 left in those two funding sources, which leaves us with a significant funding gap, about $1.5 million annually, that we would need to think about as part of this EV conversion. So we're open to the idea, and that's why we put it in the RFP to evaluate that. It was ultimately up to the proposers to look at how they would integrate that EV process into our transportation services. So again, we hear you. We ultimately at Public Works, we try to incorporate those when we can. It's no different when we look at any of our providers, whether it's a contractor, consultant. We want to make sure that they're seeing those same visions that we have.
For the VIA proposal, did they propose EV for the Spirit bus as well, or just the Dial-A-Ride and the microtransit?
I think it was every angle they could, but it wasn't 100% EV conversion. So maybe Socha can speak to it a little more.
That's correct. It wasn't all EVs. I think for the fixed route, it was 2 buses that would have been EVs for the first term of the contract.
I'll put out there, I would be interested in a new RFP process that integrates zero emission, right, technology for at least the Dial-A-Ride and the microtransit system part of this, and options for potentially phasing in EV or zero emission for the fixed route system. But understanding, I'm guessing the bulk of the cost is probably the fixed route system transition to zero emission, probably the most expensive part of this. And so understanding that cost, and we only have so much envelope if we want to utilize local return for Prop A, Prop C money, knowing we don't want to bust into our general fund to the extent possible, but also would be good to have that option to see what that might cost, and make sure that that's an option for the council to consider. I would like to consider that at least.
Sean, I want to do a follow-up question. Thank you to Councilmember Wong for bringing this up. I personally would also like to see us be able to transition to EV vehicles, but I know that we've already gone through this process, and I know that that a lot of staff time was and resources were expended to go through this process. I want to make sure that we honor that. If we did go through a new RFP process, how long would that take, or how long would that extend? And then would this go beyond our current contract, and also in terms of cost of going out for a new RFP? And I'm not sure if that's necessarily feasible. I know that we already, you guys are already making a recommendation here for a different company. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Sure. So again, thank you for the question, Mayor Pro Tem. So we could evaluate this, put in RFP back out. You probably need a couple of weeks to retool the RFP once council gives us full direction on what they're looking at. And then we would have to put it out for at least another 30 days, maybe even 6 weeks. Pending any more questions, it could be another 2+ months before we get any proposals back. Then we have to evaluate all that, probably another 2 to 4 weeks. And then once we have that, we'll bring it back to council. So we're pushing the end of the year. Based off of that evaluation, we would need to extend out the current contracts, probably another 6 months, which gives us enough time for not only council to make the decision on how they move forward, but then also the transition plan. Ultimately, we want to make sure we give the future contracting team time to retool, purchase any vehicles. Again, if council's direction is look at EV, we want to give them time to purchase those EVs if they don't have them in-house already, get them tooled up, get them outfitted, and ready for rollout. So we would look at best case scenario, probably July 1 of next year.
Okay. And I do like the analogy that Councilmember Wong said in terms of when we were transitioning in terms of trash haulers. We were able to see in their proposals a lot of the different options. If we went through a new RFP process, I'm assuming we could potentially look at EV versus non-EV proposals. My question is, do you feel like all of the same companies that put in proposals to our RFP would respond back with both a EV option and the current gas powered, I guess, option?
I would hope so, but ultimately it's their decision if they want to bid on it, right? They already expended their resources to evaluate the proposal based off the current RFP. They may feel that they, don't want to move forward anymore because they've already invested their resources into it. Again, that's truly up to those proposers.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Mayor,
yes.
may I? I know that we have representatives from both First Transit and VIA here. Just wanted to see if they had anything they wanted to add to the conversation after hearing all of our questions and discussions.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. David Smith, Director of Business Development for First Transit. I appreciate actually Councilmember Wong's comment about appreciation or depreciation, amortization of these assets over time. The larger vehicles are quite expensive. CARB actually has deferred on the larger vehicles their recommendations for at least a couple of years because there's not a lot of good medium-size opportunities out there in the electric vehicle range. When you get into large ones, they're very, very expensive. And then the infrastructure that you're asking us to put in place for a facility to run these and the cost of these and a 4-year contract, that obviously, if we amortize it all over 4 years, that's going to be extremely expensive to you. So we really tried to balance your needs and desires with your budget and the knowledge we have for the service and the vehicles, and looked at options, continuing with clean air with the CNG on the medium-sized larger vehicles and hybrid vehicles on the smaller vehicles as the technology catches up with what is really viable for something that has to go through a lot of durable use for a long business day, and it's not just a trip to work and a trip back on some of those electric vehicles that maybe we have in our garages at home. So we're absolutely excited about the opportunity to continue as your partner, and would like to still have that opportunity to move forward. And again, this is a 4-year contract, and our philosophy was it'll give us time to work with staff to look at what is the long-term goal to get you to that 2040 and what is changing in the industry. So appreciate it.
Hello again, and thank you for the question, council member. Just two quick clarification points I think we would add from our perspective. The language that we were referring to in the RFP cites that vehicles supplied for the contract shall be compliant with the city's ZEB plan provided in Appendix A, which was the city's ZEB plan that was adopted in March 2026 and states that beginning in 2028 to 2029, so during the duration of the contract, that all vehicles infleeted into the service should be ZEVs, which we took to which we understood to mean that throughout the course of the contract, or that during the course of the contract, we would be required to have EVs in the service. I personally don't disagree with the opinion from the First Transit team. We have operated both electric fixed route vehicles and we have operated electric microtransit vehicles, which are a smaller form factor, and the technology is much better at the for the smaller vehicles. The Ford Transits, in Rosemeads, we're introducing ID buzzes. We use entirely EV fleet with Rosemead Go and Rosemead Go Plus right next door, but we were interpreting this as a strict requirement of the RFP. We would absolutely be willing to provide kind of a matrix in a future proposal documenting here is what the service costs with EVs for microtransit, with non-EVs for microtransit, with EVs for fixed route, with non-EVs for fixed route, and we could give a solid recommendation as part of that as well. Again, we understood this based on the city ordinances to be a firm requirement, but really appreciate the time again in the partnership.
Yes, and any further comment, questions?
Well, having heard, all the information, I understand that staff has already gone through a whole process to come up with the RFPs, and that reopening or canceling and resoliciting is going to take time, and that we would need to continue our current contracts and wait until the end of the year. But I think, my opinion is we want the best services we can for our residents long term. And so finding all the best options and evaluate everything thoroughly, I think is important in my opinion. So I would want to resolicit all the bids and see, the best service we can get for our residents.
I'll offer up a motion to reject the bids from the current RFP, direct staff to retool the RFP given the feedback today, to solicit bids for zero emission vehicle technologies for all three segments, and options. We'll both look at zero emission vehicle options for the three segments and non-zero emission vehicle options for the three segments, so that we can price that out in a matrix as was suggested for the council to consider for moving forward, and the ability to potentially. Well, I would also support staff looking at longer amortization periods, knowing that the infrastructure potentially the investments that are going to be needed for the upfront costs for transitioning to zero emission vehicles will require more costs upfront. So amortizing that might help with the annual costs. I don't know what that period looks like or makes sense as. Would look to staff. I imagine probably longer than 4 years, but probably shorter than, I don't know. So trust staff to look into that, and would love to see how close we can get to being able to kind of just bring back some other options for the council. I imagine the current operators, both of whom are here, for our microtransit system, Dial Ride, and for fixed transit or fixed route transit systems, I hope would not object if we need more time to fulfill this requirement, do our homework. I imagine will not be a difficult negotiation to extend some of those contracts and figure that out, but we'll leave that to staff to bring back for council. But I would make that motion if that was clear.
Can I get just one clarifying point? So as we look to go back out to RFP, are we okay with having the current proposal, which is they can deem it all gas or CNG, and then basically option A. Option B would be a hybrid model of blended, and then an option C would be all EV. I just want to make sure I'm clear on, because ultimately, if I leave it up to the proposers again, we could be back in the same boat.
Yeah, I think as many of the options as possible to bring back for council's consideration. I think all those options would be helpful.
If I may, I just wanted to reiterate what I think I heard. So I think there could be an option. I think the hybrid option that you're talking about, Sean, may be if the smaller vehicles for microtransit and dial-a-ride, it might be a hybrid option where those vehicles might be EV and the larger vehicles may not be EV, right? Those might be CNG or some other kind of vehicles.
Yeah.
So still have those flexibilities for various different options. So we can probably come up with those.
Yeah.
So that we're clearer in the RFP of what the options are.
Yep. And then also, maybe this is a Carl question, is there an opportunity for us, because we know this is going to go beyond the end of the current contract, can we just go into a month-to-month contract? So does council have that authority to do that?
Council can direct that happen right now. The agenda description, that's why there's always language at the bottom saying any desirable related actions related to this item. So that's something that the council
I
would
would
like to do.
add authorizing the staff to negotiate with our current operators to see what options are available and what makes sense to extend the contract as needed, existing contracts, to make sure service is not interrupted.
Thank you.
Yeah, including month-to-month options.
Thank you.
I think what I'm hearing is, one, rescinding this request, two, putting on a new request for staff to go back and get bids for different options, option A, option B, and you would dictate those terms so that the vendors can select where the bids will come in. And three, we would have to go in and give you additional time for the current contract, extended reasonable time, and we'll let you decide, like, is that 60 days, 90 days, 120 days? So there's kind of three different items. I believe Councilmember Wong made the first request, so I'm going to let you kind of go through that.
Is that clear?
Overall, yes, we'll make it work.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, just to make sure that we don't have a similar discussion at some point. I believe that the direction from the council is, one, to reject the current proposals, reissue the RFP, ask for 3 different proposals coming back, either all electric, a hybrid, or something else for you to consider. And as part of that, obviously, when the proposals come forward for council consideration, there will need to be a budget associated with each one of those proposals for you to consider. And also to authorize a month-to-month if necessary in order to bring this back.
Any other direction the staff need?
Nope,
All right,
I think that's good.
I'll make that motion then.
Okay, a motion's been made. Can we have a second, please?
Second.
Moved by Councilor Wong, second by Councilor Yang. Any further debate or discussion? Hearing none, members please vote.
We have a split vote.
That should not be a no. I don't know.
Well, it's,
What
it's 4.
We need
It's
to
still 4.
that was an error? Okay, let's revote. Let me clear the board.
Members, please vote.
Approved unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, members, for a very robust conversation, and staff for your patience in hearing our deliberations. Okay. Okay, on to item 11, public hearing. Again, this is a final opportunity to request to speak on public hearing items. If you have not yet submitted a blue speaker card and wish to comment, please raise your hand, complete a speaker card, and provide it to the city clerk. For those participating remotely, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom. If you are participating by phone, please press *9 to join the speaker queue. And I think for this, we're going to hear staff presentation, then proceed with any hearing comments. clerks, how many in-person speakers and how many remote speakers do we have, and what is the speaking time limit for item 11?
Mayor, there are a total of 6 in-person speakers, none on the Zoom, and so the time will be 3 minutes per speaker.
Okay, 3 minutes per speaker and 6 items. Okay, thank you very much. And with that, then let's proceed with the public hearing, rescinding and terminating development agreement number 21-01 and repealing Goodview specific plan for the property located at 1688 West Garvey Avenue. Hearing is open. So proceed with presentation.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor Lowe and City Council members. I'm Tim Howe, Community Development Director, providing the staff presentation tonight. I'd like to introduce Jerry Guevara, our new planning manager for the city.
Thank you, Tim, for that introduction, and good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. This next item, as mentioned, is a continuation effort to rescind and terminate the specific plan and development agreement associated with the Goodview's property located at 1688 West Garvey Avenue. Next slide. Quick background on the Goodview's entitlements. On July 7th, 2021, the City Council approved various entitlements to facilitate the development of 16 residential units at the subject property. The entitlements included certification of a final environmental impact report, approval of a vesting tenant track map, as well as adoptions of 2 ordinances. Ordinance number 2210, which approved the zone change and established the Goodview specific plan, as well as ordinance number 2211, approving a development agreement number 2101 between the city and Center International Investments. Moving forward, we'll refer to them as CII. Following the entitlements, actually prior to the entitlement in April of 2017, the City Council and CII executed a settlement agreement that obligated CII to construct and maintain erosion control measures and stabilize the subject property. After project entitlement, CII failed to stabilize the property. And in August of 2021, the city served CII with a notice of breach and then followed with a notice of default in October of 2021. Following in May of 2022, the City Council initiated legislative subpoena proceedings to gather facts related to CII's noncompliance with regards to the development agreement. Next slide. Furthermore, in June of 2022, the city declared an emergency due to an immediate threat of public health and safety and began direct abatement work under the Goodview's abatement project. The city incurred approximately $16 million in cost secured through nuisance abatements liens on the project site. Under the amended settlement agreement, the CII pledged commercial property on Lee Avenue in the city of South El Monte to secure its obligations based on the costs associated with the improvements. After CII failed to reimburse the abatement costs, the city initiated non-judicial foreclosure of the Lee property. In May of this year, the City Council held an annual review of the subject development agreement and found that CII failed to demonstrate good faith compliance with the terms and conditions of the development agreement. Furthermore, Council directed staff to initiate proceedings to rescind and terminate the development agreement in accordance with Government Code Section 65868 and Section 12 of the development agreement, as well as to repeal the Goodview specific plan associated with the development agreement and the project, including any necessary zone changes to restore the prior zoning destination of the property. Here you see 2 maps. The one on the left is showing the current zoning destination of the property, which is Goodview specific plan, as outlined by the dashed line and highlighted in red by the subject property line. The map on the right is showing the restored destination of the property zoning to high density residential, or R3, which was again the original destination of the property prior to the adoption of the specific plan. In terms of the analysis for restoring the zoning destination of the property, currently Goodview specific plan allows a maximum of 16 single-family residences. Restoring the zoning to R3 would allow a maximum of 155 dwelling units and would broaden the potential buyer pool and maximize the sale price of the property as recommended by the study prepared by Kidder Matthews, the commercial real estate firm that the city hired to assess the property. It is important to note that tonight's actions are not approving a development project at such density, and merely it's restoring the zoning destination of the property as it existed prior to the adoption of the Goodview specific plan. Moving on to the analysis for terminating development agreement, as previously mentioned, CII failed to demonstrate good faith compliance with multiple core obligations. The city identified 8 specific areas of non-compliance, which include failure to implement required hillside stabilization, abate longstanding public nuisance, comply with mitigation measures, cooperate or provide necessary documentation, obtain necessary permits, defend and indemnify the city in litigation, reimburse approximately $60 million in abatement costs, as well as provide evidence supporting good faith performance compliance. These are the basis for staff's recommendation to rescind and terminate the development agreement. In accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act, the proposed actions being requested for tonight's consideration for council are exempt from further environmental review in accordance with CEQA guidelines section 15061B3, also known as the general rule or the common sense rule. The proposed actions will not have a significant effect on the environment as they involve the repeal of a specific plant and restoration of prior zoning destination and terminating the development agreement. These actions are not proposing or approving any new development, and any further future development at the project site will be analyzed independently and in accordance with CEQA at that time. If the proposed actions are approved by this council tonight, a notice of exemption will be filed for these actions. With that, staff is recommending that the City Council, after considering the evidence received during the public hearing, introducing and waiving first reading for an ordinance repealing ordinance number 2210 and restoring the zoning destination of the property from Goodview specific plan to R3, as well as an ordinance repealing ordinance number 2211 and rescinding and terminating development agreement 2101. And lastly, taking any such additional related action that the council may desire. That concludes staff's presentation. Tim and I are available to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for the staff presentation. We'll proceed now to public comment, and then we'll close the hearing and let members ask their questions. First up, David Almada.
Good evening, I'm David Almada. I'm a former city council member and also mayor, 1982 to 1986. So I'm very aware of the history of Monterey Park. I'm also an educator, retired from the LAUSD, some 40 years almost, and 34 plus of that as an administrator. I've worked on infrastructure projects. I reconstructed 2 schools for the LA City school system. So I've been very involved in the school system and also here in the city. How did I become involved? In 1987, there was a major rainstorm in Monterey Park. I lived at that time at 702 South Inez. There was a river in front of our street. The neighbor right behind me on Divina Vista almost got killed and impaled by a rod. The fire department saved him at the last moment. That's how I became involved in the city. The residents around me wanted me to represent them and to find out what was going on in the city with this flooding and all these mudslides that were taking place. And believe me, they were everywhere, including the street where I live at now. The Juarez family that lived across the street, I don't have the exact address, facing Garvey. He was an architect and his wife was a professor at Cal State LA, suffered major damage. The water tank is up there. That was a big concern all along. A few years later, I was elected to the city council. That's why I had got involved, and that's why I think I was elected. Now, since that time, I live at the bottom of the hill on Sombrero Drive. However, at the top of the hill, that water tank is still there. That water tank suffered major damage. Well, I don't want to say major damage, suffered damage in 1988 earthquake. Any movement of soil in that area is detrimental to the overall best interests of our city. I recently stopped a water leak, helped stop water leak by letting the city know there was a water leak in the hills by the Monterey Highland School near my home. Finally, they did find 2 different leaks. One was coming up from Arriba. Why? Because I know what can happen. If there's water coming down, there can be a landslide, a mudslide, and then soil movement. We cannot take this other than seriously in our city, because we're a hillside city, and it's a very pretty city. And I still live here. I haven't moved out like others have. I'm still here. Councilman Wong is our councilman. You especially have to look into this. The historical record is there, historical record. I have a master's degree in history, so I know it's important. From UCLA, by the way. And so I think that this council, and in general the community,
Thank you very much.
including where I live at, need to investigate this further. That
Thank you very
land
much.
needs to stay open. And just 2 more points.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I just have 2 more points. You need to make it, if anything, a dog park maybe, a little trail, and that's
Thank
it.
you very much.
Leave that land alone.
Thank you very
very much.
Next, Dave Jones.
Thank you, Mayor Lowe, Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez, council members, dedicated staff. The property at 1688 West Garvey has had multiple landslide and stabilization issues since the 80s, all the way up to the 2010s. It is well known as the least stable land in Monterey Park. Based on the documents in the record, the Good View Abatement Project was designed specifically for the 16 parcel property at 1688 West Garvey, not for a much higher density project, certainly nowhere as big as 155 units. I also couldn't find anything in the record indicating the remediation project was signed off on by a professional engineer. Without that, really, nothing has been accomplished, and restoring the original zoning would be an invitation to disaster. Now, I've heard the testimony that this is just taking away the Good View zoning plan and not determining anything else to be done. But it's clear that the intention is to sell the property for higher density, and that would be a huge mistake, in my opinion. Thank you very much for your time.
Next, Mr. Flock.
Good morning. I am not as educated as all of our previous speakers. They have master degree, PhD. I only have a elementary school degree, so I'm not that professional. But I can do the kindergarten math. I know that 155 ADU units, that is potentially putting 155 homeless person, or maybe 155 low-income person, providing them with a roof on top of their head. That is exactly how Kevin De Leon did and how Kevin De Leon succeeded. Kevin De Leon did, well, they call it a small village home. You guys are maybe calling that as an ADU. Kevin De Leon built more small village home than the other 14 council district members combined together. That's how much roof Kevin De Leon put on people's head, so people doesn't have to sleep in the park, people doesn't have to sleep inside of the trash can, people doesn't have to, getting chased by a whole bunch of coyotes, when in the summer. So I am not an engineer, regarding that safety. I don't understand that. I only learned from our kindergarten that Monterey Park does not have much alternative to affordable housing. If we have 1,000 people, low income, they are funding somewhere, I know that Monterey Park does not have enough roof to provide it to them. But for this one, we are putting 16 residential units and converted them from 16 to 155. And I believe this is a great opportunity because I advocated numerous right here on behalf of a homeless population. But again, the city of Monterey Park is we just never had a council member like Kevin De Leon who actually answered the calls for homeless people, who actually meet with homeless people, who actually walk on the Skid Row and then shake the hands with homeless people to see that how can I put a roof above your head. We just don't have such council member in Monterey Park. So I see this one project, I see the Goodwill Company, whatever, is that Goodwill? Whatever that name that is, if they were able to, if they fail whatever the promise they did, and then if we were able to try a different plan to have a 155 ADU, and I personally consider that is a good plan. I know there are so many people need a roof on top of their head. That I know there are so many people needs a safety place to sleep at night, and hopefully this one will help them.
Next, Jenny Bradshaw. I'm sorry.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Lowe and council members, Mr. Berger. I'm James Bradshaw. I'm representing SOS Save Our Slopes. And I'm here tonight specifically to comment and object to the determination by the city that the actions are exempt from the California Quality Act, Environmental Quality Act. The proposed rezoning is a project subject to CEQA. A project is an activity directly undertaken by a public agency that may cause either direct physical change in the environment or reasonable, foreseeable, indirect physical change in the environment. Under the Supreme Court, they held that land use ordinance is a project, whereas here it may be foreseeably result in new construction and associated physical changes. CEQA provides that this is an activity, the guidelines provide that activity is not subject to CEQA where it can be seen with certainty that no possibility that the activity in question has a significant effect on the environment. The showing is just if I raise legitimate questions whether the project has a significant impact, per Davidson, the agency must refute that claim to a certainty before finding that the exemption applies. Thirdly, the agency must actually conduct a preliminary review. The city has not conducted any review, produced no supporting evidence. The staff report and the two draft ordinance contain a single identical four-sentence CEQA recital. It cites no study, no map, no technical analysis, no geotechnical opinion, and no biological survey. There is no initial study for preliminary review and no administrative record supporting that this can possibly not affect the environment. The city is not making a neutral ministerial correction to its zoning map. It is deliberately increasing development capacity on a hillside by roughly a factor of 10 for the express purpose of attracting a buyer who will build on it. This is the paradigm of a growth-inducing action, and CEQA requires that it reasonably foresee all consequences be examined now. I have a lot more, and I won't get through it all. This abatement work was taken to just as an emergency basis, not to shore up anything for units up to 155. Quickly, in summation, the common sense exemption is reserved for activities that are obviously exempt, where CEQA guidelines language, absolute and precise language, clearly implies has no application to the legislated act.
Thank you very much.
Its purpose.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ramon N. Ramon N.
It's ramen noodle, dumb fuck. Read the card correctly regarding the real estate project application here. 16 million motherfucking dollars in liens and years of landslide use for a disaster called erosion. Now, 16 single parcels versus 155 dwellings sounds enormous and sounds very fishy when it comes to development in California. The same kind of deals, backdoor deals that shithole governor, I guess his name is Newscomb, or the same bitch that runs this district, Hilda El Solis of the 1st District. So I must be navigating a real narrative here to correct the so-called evidence and the support of public testimony tonight on their behalf, because I can see that there were no subcommittees, as brought out by Mr. Wong Wong, to explain why the fuck the Wong go on for so long. It sounds like when you eat chop suey, you're getting fucking ramen noodle, right? Just like in this picture. Oh, shit. Just like in this picture here. You see this, folks? That's what a politician looks like. This is what ramen noodle shit looks like. Development like this shit here. And so, as I said earlier, WTF, acronym for what the flock, of 60 million fucking dollars for this shared understanding. Well, I've addressed it. They're off of Abajo Drive by the associated location in which this motion clearly identifies the crisis, as you heard in public testimony. That it means there's going to be more homes destroyed on the landslide falling down. Almost sounds like a landslide song. Now, who could that be? Does anyone want to raise their hand and answer the million-dollar questions to this fucked up choice, this fucked up decision, and the fucked up idea that we can tear down 16 single homes to build 155 motherfucking dwellings? Now you know what the flock I'm talking about. That's where you should have your cameras investigating this kind of flock shit to prevent it for future damage and have FEMA pay for your flock up, fucked up mistakes. For the record, I'm submitting this documents as public testimony.
Thank you very much.
I didn't run out of my time. Got 4 seconds, fool.
Cindy Yee.
Good evening, City Council. Yesterday, I sent an email regarding the history on Goodview's property dating back to the 70s, pointing out the instability of that hillside and to inform the residents of Monterey Park tonight that us taxpayers have funded a piece of worthless property for decades, from attorney fees to a $17 million retaining wall that the city left undone because someone else owns a tiny parcel below Goodview's, where it lost a retaining wall in a severe storm and Abajo was closed for 2 years. I recently discovered the $17 million retaining wall along Garvey is only the exit and entrance into the property. The 16 R1 or 18 lots is on Abajo Drive above the homes that stretch across the single-family homes on Abajo. Goodview property is below homes at the top of Sombrero and the water tower that sustained damage in the 87 Whittier earthquake with only a magnitude of 5.9. At the intersection of Abajo and Garvey, the structure sustained considerable damage to buildings within a 1/4 mile radius that I outlined in my email since I was a witness with 3 young children, and we are unfortunately in the ring of fire. Since us taxpayers own Goodview properties now and have a 10-year plan to improve parks, I am proposing to add Goodview's property as open space for a much-needed dog park and hiking trail. The history of this prehistoric hillside with magnificent views of SGV is a shot-in-the-arm bonus to the city of Monterey Park residents and visitors. The unique infrastructure is that it already has a security gate entering and exiting onto Garvey. We can apply for a grant to improve this site as a park. Please do not change the zoning code from R1 to R3 because you will be doing a disservice to Monterey Park. 2 weeks ago, you marked up the city with vacant lots, empty parochial schools, empty buildings, and possibilities of R3 residential zone with no vision, no thought, nor well-planned community, nor infrastructure, and don't care about the future overcrowded schools and congestion and traffic flow. You mentioned school enrollment is down. Have you considered the threat of ICE and people of color are hiding or have disappeared? Thank you.
Any further requests, clerk?
There are none.
Okay, then I will conclude this hearing. Okay, council members?
Thank you for the presentation and for all the public comments. A few questions. If we repeal this ordinance, can the city still collect on any of the existing liens or city expenditures or judgments or any other remaining claims that the city has?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is city-owned property at this point. So the liens are in effect what caused the property transfer or property title to transfer to the city. The discussion in December of 2025 with the city council was what was the best option for the city at that point. That was when the real estate broker brought forth a plan for marketing that piece of property in order for the city to potentially recoup part of its costs. So to answer your question, yes, if you sell the property.
And also, if we restore the previous zoning, what could actually be built there? And would any future residential development have to come back to council for approval in the future?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, there's, as was indicated in the staff report, there is 0 development being proposed for this site. The issue has to do with making it more marketable for a potential buyer and a potential developer. As some of the speakers have observed and has been very apparent in the record for years now, I've been working on this project since 2015, that all of the improvements that were made through the emergency process to stabilize the hillside would have to be re-examined by any residential builder that wanted to actually build homes on that. More than likely, it would have to be re-stabilized in order to put the weight of those homes onto that particular slope. So at the moment, nothing can be built on there. The question again for the city council, which is ongoing, is whether or not you want to keep the property for a public purpose or if you want to sell the property. Right now, the direction from the city council in December and in May was to move forward with making it as marketable as possible. And we have brokers actively seeking interested buyers.
And I know some of our community members suggested uses like a dog park, or other uses. If we do go with that route, does that mean we wouldn't be able to collect and pay back the outstanding liens?
Correct. This is the liens in essence is the real property. So that's your interest in the property. The liens have been wiped out by the transfer of the title to the city. There was an additional piece of property that has now been sold for $2.5 million, $2.2 million for the city to recoup part of its cost. That was in the city of South El Monte. Escrow closed and title transferred to a private property owner. we now have that money. So that is a partial recoupment of the money that has already been expended. But with regard to this property, the city holds title to it. It is public property.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, first off, thank you for our few speakers here who actually have the background history of the property. And from what I gathered, I mean, the rain problem, the soil erosion, that was probably in the 70s before the water tower and the 87 earthquake. So that has continually been a problem that was, for many different reasons, not addressed by the city, not addressed by prior councils because we had different priorities. But I'm gonna, give a shout out to the council members who actually voted to stabilize the hillside, because from that point on, after the 2000s, 2010s, we had major rainstorms, and had that not been stabilized, that would have been a real concern for the community. Moving forward to where we are, I have a couple of questions for staff here that you can probably help here. This parcel went into a specific plan for 16 units. What timeline was that? When did you get approval for that?
The approvals for the specific plan were in 2021, Councilmember Ngo.
So 2021, they got a specific plan for 16 units. And how long were they given before they had to perform and start the process to build the 16 units?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'll jump in on this. I've been involved with this, as I've said, for a while. So just to back up and put it into context, the specific plan is not something that I think the city council at the time in 2021 was extremely excited about. It was part of an overall agreement with the property owners at that time to abate and stabilize the hillside. The city council allowed, as part of an overall development plan, for those property owners to stabilize the hillside. So to answer your question, the city council was less interested in when those homes were going to be built as when the hillside was going to be stabilized. And for that purpose, off the top of my head, the specific plan was considered in June of 2021, and building permits for the hill stabilization were supposed to have been pulled by August of 2021. That never happened, which is why we're here now, and why the city went in and stabilized the hill itself. So that is a very, I can't tell you off the top of my head when the homes were actually supposed to be built, but that wasn't the city council's concern at the time. The city council's concern at the time, and continues to be, the stabilization of the hillside.
Well, part of the development, so what I'm hearing is part of the development agreement with the builder, the owner at the time, was you need to fix the hillside, then you can build your 16 units. The hillsides were never fixed. The city went and put the stabilization guards in place. They defaulted on that development agreement. The city took action. Am I hitting the right approach here?
You are spot on.
Okay. The city took action. They defaulted. They went away. The city actually went into some kind of modification because we gave them additional time. That's how they secure additional collateral, in which they defaulted again. Then the city foreclosed and took those collateral. We're still in default. Now, the city owns the site because we've actually finished the collection process. We own the collateral. We collected on the additional collateral. We own the site. And the point we're trying to do today is that development agreement with this developer is now kind of defaulted or defunct, right? Because there's no one building a 16 unit. That development agreement no longer exists.
For all intents and purposes, the development agreement is moot because there is no private property owner.
Right.
The city owns the property. And in essence, if you really wanted to get wonky about it, the city has a development agreement with itself.
Okay.
Because it's the successor in interest to the private property owner.
So the request is to basically restore this back to the original zoning for this, which could be R3, or actually it is R3, right? Which potentially, if a private developer bought it, they can build up to 155 units, before they get there, they would have to go through the development, buy the land, go through the development, get the buy-in, go through the planning commission, and then the city council for approval.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, yes, any potential buyer that would want to build anything on that hillside would, as an initial matter, first have to enter into a deal with the city to actually acquire the property. But secondarily, and more importantly, for the purposes of one of the council members' questions, all of the development protections remain in place for any private development. Let's just assume, for the sake of your question and for a hypothetical, that the city council decided to part with the hillside to whichever developer. There's a process for doing that. There's a process for actually declaring the land surplus, being able to hand it off to a private property owner, and then that private property owner has to come up with a development that works. Right now, remember that with the hillside stabilization, the city council at the time decided to not make the stabilization as robust as would be necessary to put homes on it. So it's robust enough to keep the hill back, but that assumes that there's no buildings on that hill, which means that any future developer, if there were one, would have to first of all do the engineering and cost estimate for restabilizing the hillside so that you could actually put buildings onto that hillside. There's environmental process, multiple studies. I mean, just the environmental process by itself is likely $1 million for somebody to actually make a decision about whether or not something could be developed there. And then to your point, you would still have to enter into a development deal with the city, most likely in the form of a development agreement. It would move through the usual process that we have for any private development. So there are multiple instances all along for years to come whereby the public input would be considered and the project would be developed. Tonight is no project. Tonight is simply a suggested repeal of a specialized zoning that was approved by a split council in 2021 solely for the purpose of stabilizing that hillside. Were the council to move forward with a recommended action, the repeal of that ordinance from 2021 would restore the zoning that had existed at that site for years. So, and that's R3. So this is not a new zoning designation. This is not a new plan for that area. This is a plan that has always been on the books up until the aberration that occurred in 2021.
Okay. So I'm just going to finish up here. So I wanted to kind of ensure that our residents understand that point, which is if someone were to build this, if and when they would have to go through the process of restabilizing the hillside to the planning commission's ideal specs. And they have to get through that. Well, actually, they have to get development agreement to get through the city's understanding. And then it will come through the city council's approval as well, right? So that's many different steps.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the city council, first of all, is the only one that can approve the conveyance of title to anyone. Right now, it's public property. So if at some point down the line, even though the council gave us direction last year to move down this line to market the property, to try to sell the property to recoup costs based upon the nuisance abatement costs, you can change your mind anytime you want to. There's nothing that locks you into this particular point. There were speakers that had talked about perhaps having as open space or parks or whatever it is. All those are on the table.
Let him speak.
All those are on the table, and it's completely within your discretion about what to do. We are simply implementing the direction that the city council has already given us, and that's why this is in front of you tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Carl, you already touched on it a little bit, but can you just address more directly some of the claims from the Save Our Slopes representative that was here and was addressed by public comment in a letter to us?
Sure. I should note for the record that the SOS folks did submit 2 letters for the record. I have responded to both of those as recently as 4:30 actually 6 o'clock this afternoon or this evening. In essence, SOS, which keep in mind has a pending lawsuit against the city, which specifically asked that the city council repeal the specific plan and the development agreement, which for different reasons the city council is contemplating doing tonight. Nothing to do with the lawsuit, mainly having to do with the marketing. Now it objects to the very thing that's asking for in its lawsuit. So I've read the arguments, I've responded to them in writing. I can certainly go down the rabbit hole if you want me to, but I don't know that it's necessarily relevant to this discussion.
No, I just want to make sure it was addressed since it was brought up as well. And I just want to note personally, right, I grew up on that hill. My parents still live there. I represent the Highlands neighborhood. I care very deeply about this, and this is an issue that, frankly, as others have brought up, has been decades, many, many decades ongoing. And it continues to be a safety issue, right? I remember in 2000, right, when as was noted by some of the speakers, the landslide on the other part of that hill that helps showcase the instability of that hillside, right? That Abajo being shut down for years and having to drive around because of the unsafe nature of that hillside. I'm glad the previous council, most of us were not on this council when the decision was made, to force and make sure that the hillside was stabilized to the extent that it is now. And to your point, as the staff were making, made safe just to the point of stabilizing the hillside, not for potential development. Any kind of development would have to do geotechnical studies, do whatever else, engineering, all that stuff to make sure that if they propose anything, would very likely have to do a lot more work to make that hillside ready for development. I know it's been brought up. Hey, excuse me.
Let him speak! Let him speak!
So the
Tell us to be quiet, but don't do that.
all right. So in terms of the zoning, my question to Tim or to staff, the existing R3 zoning, when was that put into place? Or when was that effectuated? Do we know?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, it was R3 in 2009 when I joined city service. So I can't tell you exactly when it was applied to that piece of property, but that gives you an idea that it was existing.
So it's been an existing R3 for quite a while.
Yes.
And I was looking at the land use map for the city right there. And I understand the concerns around overdevelopment, density. I think we want to be sensitive to that. I certainly want to be sensitive to that, particularly for this portion. But I just want to point out, right, there are other parts of the city, including the Valle del Sol, the senior housing across the way there that is also R3 zoned. They are not built to their max development envelope. Is that right?
That would be accurate.
And there are many other places that are R3 in the city that are not built to their maximum development envelope. Fair to say.
Fair to say, yes, correct.
And so I just want to reiterate, right, I don't see a choice not to rescind the development agreement and the existing specific plan. That is obviously not workable. Otherwise, we'd have a 16-unit development there. I support and I would like to take this action. I think there's further discussion to be had in terms of what the right density should be here. That's not on the agenda tonight for discussion, but that is something I would be open to having a discussion about. It sounds like that's what the concern is from some of the residents that I've heard from the Highlands and tonight, and that's something I'm open to. But I just want to point out, right, the R3 zoning that exists there, was there before the specific plan approved just a few years ago, has been there for quite a while. And just because it's zone R3 doesn't mean, right, it's going to become a development that's going to reach its max development envelope. It's going to happen. And if any project, any kind of project was developed there or was proposed there, again, as was pointed out by other council members, would have to come back to council, would have a public hearing, and would be publicly vetted, have to be publicly vetted, and enter into a development agreement and proposed for the council to consider. Is that right?
That's correct.
I want to dig a little bit deeper too, right? The staff report looked at inconsistency between the land use element that was approved in 2020 and the existing zoning R3. There's an inconsistency there. The land use element approved by voters in 2020, right, notes lower density than the R3 currently allows. State law, I think, would, when there's, if I read the staff report correctly, and my understanding is correct, state law would defer to the larger or the higher density that's allowed there. Is that right? If there's inconsistencies.
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, as you recall, since we've talked about it a lot, in Monterey Park, the land use element has to be approved by voters. So when this project was being considered by the city in 2020, 2021, one of the issues had to do with the land use designation for the site. Uh, Based upon the settlement agreement between the CII and the city council agreed to add in a change to the land use designation for this site within Major JJ, which happened. So any future development, if there were a theoretical development, would be required to ensure that there was consistency between the land use element and the zoning at any time that there was a planning or a development being proposed. At the moment, there is an inconsistency between the land use element and the zoning. That said, there's no project being planned at the moment. So again, either through state law or through the amendments to the land use element, if and when any development were to be considered by the city council in the future, that inconsistency would have to be resolved through legal means. Again, either through state law or through potentially a ballot measure on the ballot to ensure that the land use designation matched with the zoning.
Thanks. No, appreciate that. And also, right, some of the comments here noted, right, the desire for a public park, other uses potentially for this space. If we wanted to utilize this space potentially as a public space or public park, it's not, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not as simple as just opening it up as a park. There would be relatively significant costs to make sure that this is an actual park, which would cost money. And let's start with that one, right?
It'd be fair to say, Councilmember Wong, that to make the site accessible for the public, for let's say some sort of public use such as a park or trail, that would require significant investment, likely in probably in the millions of dollars, just as a rough guess.
Appreciate it. And there's no existing plumbing, there's no existing utilities, there's nothing, there are no amenities, no resources, no things that go there, right?
That's I believe I believe that is accurate. Yes.
Okay, and then I just want to detail there's clearly a lot of interest in this. How I have approached this issue since my time on council, and hopefully offer some clarity to those, especially those who live in the Highlands, that are have a very vested interest in the outcome of this. Right, we've detailed how we got to this point, the litigation, the development agreement, all that stuff, some of the continuing litigation. The city has expended significant funds to taxpayer money on this project that was initiated before this council was this council. It is what it is. It was done. I'm actually glad it was done, right, to make that hillside safe, that hillside I grew up with and many of us have lived with for a long time, to make it safer and to prevent landsliding, especially as we're looking at another historic El Nino season. Hopefully rain actually shows up, but not too much rain. But appreciate that the city took the action to make that hillside safe. The city has expended significant funds to do that. We are working to recover that money, and I've heard from many residents in the Highlands and beyond, the desire and the vociferous advocacy for us to recover as much those costs, ideas for how we could have spent that money otherwise if we didn't spend it on this hillside. And I can think of 100 other things to spend that money on that we would love to do. Right? We have that. I would love nothing than more public space, public parks. We had a parks master plan that we went through that process. We're looking at making these investments in parks, expanding open spaces in the community. I'd love to have a dog park, other public spaces, park spaces, but I'm also looking at this from, the city's already spent $16+ million of taxpayer money. We've recovered a little bit of that, $2-point-something million from this other property. We're missing, right, we've got a gap of $14 or so million of costs that the city's taxpayers have spent on this hillside. And so if we're looking at this from the options perspective of utilizing the space as public space or park space, costing the city potentially millions of dollars to make it there, or potentially recovering more of that cost so that we can relieve the taxpayers' burden of the costs of remediating this hillside and making it safe. Right, I feel and I think my role as a council member is to do our best, at least to try very, very hard to recover as much of that taxpayer money as possible so that we can use it on the many, many uses that we already have on our capital improvement plan that are unfunded, and a whole host of other things that we know we need to spend money on to make sure our residents are getting the services and getting their needs met in the community. And so that's the approach I've taken. That's why I think we have pursued this option to market this property, to recover as much of those costs, or at least try, so that we have a case to make to the taxpayers that we are doing our best to recover that money that was spent to make this taxpayer money that was spent to make this hillside safe, which I think is what's critically important to do. If there is no interest in this property, then the option on the table for the city is to utilize this space as public space potentially and to consider spending that money. But when it comes to potentially recovering millions of dollars for the city that we expended because of the lack of seriousness of the developer, I think it's my and our fiduciary duty to do our best to recover as much of that funding as possible to restore that to taxpayers. And if that doesn't work, then at least we tried, we did our best, and I think we need to do our best to do that. And then if that fails, look at other options. That's why I've approached this way, and that's why this agenda item is brought here. I think that's why I voted to, or directed staff to bring this as an item here, and that's why I support the item and the staff recommendation here. And there's more work to be done, and I know there are concerns around potential development here. Those are all, to my mind, separate conversations that will happen if there is interest in developing this property down the line. That's not what's on the agenda tonight. That's not what's being discussed.
Thank you. Next, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, staff, for the report. I know this is something, decision that was made by previous councils, and I know that the idea behind this was to stabilize the hill and make it a lot more safe for people who live there. And I'm glad that that action was taken. I agree with Councilmember Wong in that a lot of residents have approached us about not just how do we recover these funds, but the $16 million plus that were spent, how it could have been used for other CIP projects. And I know Sean is back there. Our CIP project list is upwards of $200 million, right? So there's a lot, including the pool, that we could potentially be using a lot of these funds that if we recovered, we could expend on pressing projects like the pool as well. I think there's no project that is being discussed tonight. I think that if in the future there were a project that was proposed, there would be a lot of discussion about not just the stabilization of that hill and whether the developer would have to do something new to stabilize, but also, if that also is dependent on whether a developer wants to even purchase that. It could well be that we don't have a buyer and we might see other options in terms of what we could do with this property. But I agree with Councilmember Wong that we do have a duty to try to recover as much of these funds. I know that we've already done that. This council has worked hard to try to recover a lot of those funds with the help of our city attorney and staff. So appreciative of recovering those $2.4 million and looking forward to recovering even more, because I know we have a lot of expenditures. And for those of you guys who have been here all night, you heard a lot of the different projects that the city is working on to try to improve not just the quality of life of our residents, but also improve our infrastructure, which we're working really hard to do as well. So I'm also supportive of moving this item forward. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Councilmember Yang.
Just a few more follow-up questions. So I know there's two actions being recommended here. One is terminating the development agreement, which I'm in agreement with. The second action is restoring the zoning designation. So does council have to restore the designation back to R3, or do we have discretion to designate it, low density or something else other than high density residential?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, so the recommended action is simply to repeal the specific plan, and the reason for that is because the zoning that existed before then reappears, if you will. If you want to change it to some other designation, that will require a CEQA process. That's going to require initial study. That's going to require whatever additional things that CEQA points out from an environmental standpoint. because that would be a new zoning designation that had not previously been contemplated for that particular piece of property. So to answer your basic question, yes, you have the discretion to change it to something else, but there is a process for doing that. That is not tonight.
And how long would that process take?
Depending on what you wanted to do and what direction you gave, it could take anywhere from 6 months to a year, potentially longer.
So if we did go through the CEQA study, could we designate some of the property as R3, some as R1, and have different designations for the entire property?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, depending on what the council wanted to do with the property, yes, you could subdivide the property and then have different zoning designations for different parts of the property. The reason that we've gone down this route is simply because the recommendation from the real estate broker was R3 is the highest and best use for the property, which was the former zoning designation for this property. And so that's how it's being marketed for again, being the highest and best use. If the council wants to put a pause on that particular plan and take a different direction, we're happy to do that. Really, it then becomes, my recommendation would be to have a specific agenda item discussing exactly how you want to use the property and what all of those different options entail, because of course there is a bigger price tag associated with that, both in terms of the initial investment, in terms of changing the land use designations, and also then the consequences of not potentially getting your entire investment back from the property. But to answer your basic question, yes, of course you have discretion to do it. It's your property.
Got it. Yeah. My prerogative is to say yes to the first part, which is rescinding and terminating a development agreement, and then taking some time to maybe do a study, look into CEQA. You know, residents are saying they want different uses. It's a pretty big piece of property, so maybe a smaller dog park on some part of it, and then building some high-density residential on other parts of it to try to recoup our money to pick back the liens. Because right now, if we just make it R3, it sounds like a lot of the other suggestions are going to be out of the question. Is that correct? No?
So again, the council can shift paths anytime it wants to. Even if, let's just say hypothetically tonight, you were to introduce and waive first reading on these ordinances, and let's say the ordinances take effect. From the city's perspective, it doesn't really matter because, except from a marketing standpoint. So the advantage to the city right now is the direction from the city council was try to recoup as much money as possible from this property. We've invested a lot. We want to recoup the taxpayer money. But if at some point the city council wants to have a substantive discussion about, well, is that still the best course of action, then that's certainly something that we can put onto the agenda to bring you options. And to that point, or perhaps to your point, there's no reason that you have to sell the entire property. You could sell part of the property or none of the property or whatever you wanted to do. It's the city's property. So it's completely within your discretion about what, if anything, you want to do with it.
Got it. So basically, by taking the recommended actions today, we'd still have the flexibility later to
Correct.
Have various uses.
Yes.
Thank you. Any? Yes.
I'll make the motion to adopt staff.
Well, hold on. Before, if I can say something, please. So, again, obviously, this is an issue that has incited a lot of passion, and rightly so. In fact, we talked about a little bit of history about how it was a split council. I was one of the people who voted no for the project because I have to say that at the time I was very skeptical, given the history of that hillside slope going back to, my goodness, the early 70s, in which countless people have tried to develop it and only to see it fail. And meanwhile, the slope continued to be eroded. And I will say that I had a lot of skepticism for the project, not only because of in my opinion, that the developer was not, I think, presenting a good faith explanation about how they would stabilize that slope, but also too, and you've heard me talk about how I care about housing in this community. The developer was interested in, the question was asked, if you build this, how much are you going to be selling it for? They said $1 million. $1 million in this community. Are you kidding me? I mean, I mean, this is working class community. And I just said, I don't believe the fidelity of this project or your abatement plan. And that's why I voted no. And it is unfortunate that I was proven right, because that developer basically was unable to prove to us that they were able to abate. And that's also why I, along with the colleagues at the time, voted to also to take the property, because for decades, nothing was done. And yet meanwhile, we had slides, which could potentially cause problems for homes nearby, for commuters, for drivers, for pedestrians. And I will say right now that I get these concerns. And I will tell you right now that the same skepticism I had back then, and thank you, Cindy, for even speaking back in 2021 about the project back then. Again, I voted no for the project, but I can tell you right now that even if we were to, again, go back to whatever zoning, I highly doubt that any project would be viable. And frankly, I would probably apply the same vigor, if not more, knowing what we know about how realistic can this project be. And again, going back to the Goodview, I mean, it was just shocking to me that, number one, when asked about abatement, they very arrogantly said, we can do it. And then even more shocking to me when they said, oh, well, we're selling homes for $1 million. And I said, and who do you think is going to buy this unit? And so frankly, I just think that that's something that needs to be said. We have had so many proposals, from apartments to condos to a 16-unit, luxury project, and none of them panned out. And honestly, I think that, those concerns that have been raised tonight, they're valid concerns. But at the same time, we are trying to recoup our costs. When we finally took action to abate the hill, and if anyone is interested, I'm going to say, well, God bless you, because you are going to be subjected to so much rigor that you may just sell it again to someone else, in my opinion. That's my opinion, so.
All right, I'll make the motion to adopt staff recommendation and also provide additional direction for staff to begin looking at correcting the inconsistency between the land use element and the zoning code.
Thank you. The motion, do I have a second, please? I'll make the second then, if I don't hear one. Okay. Motion made by Councilman Wong, second by Mayor Lowe. Any further discussion? Members, please vote.
Approved unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, let's see, going on. New business, none, correct? Okay, all right, we're very good. Okay, on to city communications. Councilor Yang.
Thank you, Mayor. On Monday, one of our commissioners, Victoria Chavez Calderon, we recognized some of the outstanding citizens in our city, including Cesar Gonzalez, Edith Torres, and a few other outstanding residents. Let's see, what else do we? I think that was it. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll go back. Been a busy couple of weeks. I'll go back to August 6th. I attended on behalf of the city for the changing of the command ceremony for LA County Army Recruiting Battalion. And we saw the retirement of Lieutenant Colonel Fritzer to the new commander, Lieutenant De Jesus, as the regional recruiting officer for LA County. We do have a Maury Park Army Recruiting Center in Atlantic Square. Friday the 7th, we had a ribbon cutting grand opening for Nay Snow, which is at Atlantic Square. And I also attended the Rosemead National Night Out event, which I was part of the donors to their backpack programs to not only the Rosemead schools, but covering some of the Maury Park schools as well. Friday the 14th, I attended the AAEDE career fair at Amansa Court. And then Saturday the 15th, a few of you guys were there. It was the Maury Park Dodger Night, so Robert and Parks and Rec staff, good job on that. And then this morning, I know I Hamlet Unified started school last week, but Garvey School District started the teacher or staff orientation this morning. They start school tomorrow. That's my report.
Okay, I wanted to first thank all the teachers who returned this fall or this week and are returning tomorrow in our community to teach our students. But I also wanted to take a moment to thank our library, because throughout the summer I had an opportunity to visit our library, and I think our library is such a valuable resource, especially during the summer when kids are out. Every day that I went with my daughters to the library was just buzzing with students. So wanted to take the opportunity to thank librarian Kristen. I know you're here. So thank you for all of, and then not to mention all of the programming that was provided throughout the summer to help fill all of those gaps while the kids are out on for summer break. So now that they're returning, hopefully you get a little bit of a break, or not. I don't know. It might pick up even more. So wanted to thank you for that because that was extremely helpful, especially being able to go get books for the girls and attend some of that programming. But wanted to thank police as well, especially our police chief for running our town hall on August the 11th at Monterey Highlands School. Thank you, Chief, for running a very tight and very robust discussion regarding ALPRs and flux. So thank you so much for that, and for all of the people who came out and spoke at that event. So thank you so much, Chief. Wanted to also lastly thank Robert and all of the Monterey Park residents who came out for Dodger Night on the 15th. Next time, Robert, maybe select a date where or a team that we can defeat, so we don't have to all leave so sad. Luckily, it was still early and there were still tons to do. But anyhow, that's not your fault. I know you can't control whether the Dodgers win or not. But thank you, Robert, for helping coordinate that. It's great to see so many Monterey Park residents out enjoying the game. And thank you for also, because it was a not midday, but it was like an early game, for selecting an area that was shaded. That was very appreciated as well. I don't know how you do it, but you did a great job, Robert. Now we just got to work on making sure the Dodgers win. Thank you so much, and that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, staff. Thank you, community, for coming out and engaging, as always, in robust conversation about the quality of life in our city. We thank you. That is what civic engagement is all about. And with that, let's see, no closed session items.
Councilmember, can I make one last comment?
Okay,
I forgot to mention that last week I also had an opportunity to attend the farmers market, which is here every Thursday, and I just wanted to do a quick plug because I know they will be there tomorrow. So if you don't have fresh vegetables or fruit, go to the farmers market and get some. If you need dinner, there's also a lot of dinner options as well. It's a great resource, and I think sometimes people don't realize that that's available on a Thursday night. It's become kind of a staple for my family and I. In fact, my girls were just asking me earlier today, are we going to the farmer's market tonight? And I said, you betcha. So make sure you guys go out and support. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
I forgot one more thing. One of our residents, Bob Jin, got honored at
yes.
Judy Chu's Congressional Awards this past Saturday. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Bob
Thank
Jin.
you. And actually, thank you, Councilor Yang. We want to thank School Board Member Bob Jin for his service to Monterey Park. He has served 23 years on the Alhambra School Board, but his involvement and his family, of course, go beyond that, from the Boy Scouts to the library, and so he is definitely an example of a public servant, and we are very grateful for his service. I think that's a nice way to end tonight's meeting. And if no other further discussion or business, then we adjourn at 10:01 p.m. Thank you.